Oh, look. Some
Hi, everybody.
People in the chat room. Hi, everybody.
How are you?
Airline pilot guy just went live.
Mm-hmm.
How's about that?
Oh, there she is. Oh, there she was.
There she
One.
is.
She's-
Wait a minute.
She's going, shh.
She was, and then she left again.
I'm not saying a thing about Stephanie being
Not being there.
in the green room, not being here.
There she is.
Fix a bunch of settings. That's all.
Oh, okay. Have you updated your recorder?
No. Don't think so. Maybe I did. Nope.
Wow, you're quite
3.8 now
loud
is
today. Oh,
why am I so? Oh, I know why. Because the cleaners were here, and
they
That's always
messed with all your
they
settings.
touch all of the things.
touching.
Don't touch my things.
They need to dust, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's really what's going on. Oh, hold on, let me do this too. Let me see.
You're still quite loud to me, but that's
What's
only
that?
compared with the soft and dulcet tones of our Lord and Master.
Audio Hijack 3.8.9 is now available as a free update.
Oh, good.
You're currently running 3.8.5, so apparently I'm 0.4
Well, I
behind.
think you're going to be okay. I think you're
Skip
gonna be
for
okay.
now.
Yeah. Steph is crackly. Well, that's
Crackly?
kind of a personal thing. Yeah. How would
Crackly?
Gite?
Is there medication?
Did the
for
crackling get better?
I'm not hearing crackling.
I'm
Is
not
anybody
hearing
else
crackling, but Steph is quite strident today. There's an edge to her audio.
I've
Oh.
not changed anything. Literally
Okay.
nothing. The only thing that changed was the gain was turned up.
Can you put a bucket over your head?
Could try.
See if
I
that
only-
makes it a bit
I only have
quieter.
this wine glass though.
doesn't fit. Now you got to put the wine glass over the microphone. That
I
might
have
work.
I have this hat from my friend Ron from his podcast. It's quite large on my head.
Put that on the put that on the
It is quite
microphone.
large.
There.
Yeah, I would say don't.
Oh, that's a
Don't
lot
do
better.
that.
Okay, so
No.
everybody's hearing something on Steph's mic.
Everybody hears it? Except for you
Somebody in
guys.
the chat room.
Well, I mean,
One
it
person in
sounds
the chat
fine to
room.
me, but it must be something that they're hearing on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm not hearing it.
One person in one person in YouTube hears it. But no one else has said anything about it. Oh, Laura
Probably
hears it.
Okay. Where's our sound check guy, Micah?
He's there. He was.
Yeah.
How's it sounding? And Edwin,
Very
if you
high
want.
and kind of crinkling. Is it when I speak or is just all the time?
Tim says sounds fine to him.
They haven't pressed the.
Well, Tim, you're in the minority, so I worry about your hearing.
They haven't pressed the 48
Robert
volt
Hoffman
button.
hears
in,
it too.
Perchance, have they?
No, I know most
So does-
people.
He says when you speak.
Break up on the very high frequencies, a rattling kind of sound. When you speak.
I don't know.
I don't hear it because maybe my hearing doesn't go all the way up to that frequency.
Yeah.
What are your
I'm
cam/mic settings in StreamYard?
Looking at all of those right now.
audio?
Should I? Oh, maybe I need to hit the cancellation button.
Yeah, you are really loud to me. I mean,
Yeah.
painfully
Yeah.
loud.
Well, just then you were. I don't know. No, you should not have echo cancellation on.
Yeah, I know. I need to turn it off because.
Oh, now she's
Huh.
very soft.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
you've
now
gone down
your
lots.
volume
How
has
about
gone
there?
way down.
No, very soft.
Better.
No.
Worse.
No,
No, you
keep
need to
up,
bring it
up,
up.
up.
Hold on. Let me do. How about that?
No, it hasn't
That
changed.
hasn't changed.
No,
How about now?
up a little bit, but not enough.
That's really weird.
Are you using the gain or the headphone volume?
Neither. There's a mic volume button in settings,
Oh.
and when I came to
What?
it, it was all the way up. And Nick said it was painfully loud, so I took it halfway down, and then he said he could barely hear me. Now I've put it all the way back up, and apparently that made no difference.
Just
Ah,
for the
very
heck of it,
odd. That is
Just for the
extremely
heck of
odd.
it, do the automatic microphone.
I did, and he said it made no difference.
Oh. Okay.
That's the automatically
Now
adjusted
on
volume.
your interface, how's the
Yep.
gain set?
I can turn it up some.
Yes, please.
How about there?
Keep
That's
going.
better.
Better? More?
Yeah.
A little bit more.
Okay.
Speak.
That's as far as it goes.
It's better.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay.
That's,
That's okay.
normal stuff now.
Now everybody's saying it's still scratchy
Really
and
scratchy.
staticky.
Oh. Well, not to me.
That's weird because it sounds
sounds-
just fine to
We don't
us.
hear it.
Yeah, it sounds lovely to me.
Hello, Soren Orskov Nielsen. Like your last name, man. The other parts, I don't understand. I don't know what those letters are with lines
You need to
going
put some
through
of
them.
those neat letters in your name there, Jeff.
I do.
Well,
do they do that for like an E for Jeff?
Yeah, I think so.
That,
We'll
that's
just-
kind of weird because that's how I would normally draw a zero.
Yeah,
I strike through my
Yeah,
zeros.
yeah.
yeah.
So that's Sor Zerorin, Zero Urskov, Zerozkov.
Soroskov. Okay. Well, obviously we have upset Stephanie.
Yes.
Left, and she's not
Do
coming
you
back.
strike through your Zs as well? Because I used to do
I
that.
do.
Yeah.
I strike through my Zs, as you say, and I strike through my zeros.
Ha.
Now,
Carlos
Joe,
wants to know.
that sounds fine on my YouTube connection. No static. I'm wondering if just the people that can hear it have really good high frequency hearing, and the rest of us have lost it, so we can't hear it. I think Steph sounds great right now because she's not here. See what I did? Yeah, it could be the USB, but yeah, I'll have her disconnect the interface and then
Not
reconnect it
everybody on
that way.
YouTube's hearing it, so
Okay.
some people are saying it's
Well,
fine.
nobody on YouTube is hearing it now.
That's true. She's gone radio silent there.
Yeah,
Yes.
we've upset her so much.
If you're going to criticize my audio, I'm leaving, she says.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll show you.
Oh, she's back.
Oh, look at that. Looky
Yeah.
there.
Okay. How about
Yeah.
now?
You're still
Very
low
quiet.
volume to me.
You're quiet.
Better?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. It's way too loud in my ears. How about staticky?
Then turn down your headphone volume.
I did just now.
Okay. Sorry. I know you've done this for a few years.
It's fine. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, you do.
Better?
Okay, low volume but not clipping. Much better.
Much better.
Yeah, they were thinking that
Alright.
may have been a USB thing. So sometimes USB has some artifacts.
Did someone say that?
sound.
No, what I did, I left and I just unplugged everything and plugged it all back in.
Oh,
Yes, you-
all right.
That's often a way
right.
to
It's
fix it.
IT step number one.
Exactly. Well done, Steph.
Yep, that's true.
I mean, I have learned a few things in my time. Crystal clear, just quieter. Is it still quiet? I can't turn up the gain.
Just a
anymore.
little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah, maybe in the cam/mic settings, turn it up a little bit. I don't know.
Like,
Just a thought.
I have it.
Let's
on
start before she starts
automatically
crinkling
adjust.
again.
How
Crinkly
about
stiff.
Here. Better? Change? Anything
No
different?
change.
How about here?
Speak a
No
little.
change?
That's
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 good.
good.
That's good.
That's good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm going to blow everybody's ears out by playing.
Well, again?
Roger.
Help.
Here's Radio Roger. Let's see how he sounds.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
That's good.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
Is that loud
Not
enough?
bad.
It's a little
bad.
loud, but it's okay. I think I just need to
Still a
turn
little
my.
loud.
It's everything's loud to me. I'm going to turn down my hearing is good, so I need to.
Well, it won't be if you keep listening to
What are
this
you
show.
saying there,
I
Steph?
know.
Well, you're young too, Steph. Like, let's face it, you're young.
I wasn't insinuating. Anyway.
like the way
Actually,
she
I have a
said
phone
that.
call I have to take. I'm so sorry. I'm going to be right back.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sure.
It's somebody calling or telling
Good.
her.
It gives me more time to play around.
Yeah.
Okay. Say something, Nicholas.
Say something, Nicholas. In fact, I'll tell you what, Liz, you remember last week, Podby, we had feedback from a chap in Hong Kong.
Yes.
Trying to think what
Peter,
his name was.
I think.
Peter?
Yes,
Yeah.
Captain Peter, yes.
Is any chance you could fire him a quick email? If he's ex-Cathay, Captain Nige would quite like to get in touch.
Oh, sure.
Would that be okay?
Okay.
And then I can pass his email address to Nige.
I will do that.
Thanks.
I will do that.
Oh, and do we have... I don't think we had a surname on the show, did we?
We did not, but I'll
okay.
find it. No, don't you worry. I'll find
Oh,
it.
okay, thanks.
Don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing.
Oh, there he is right there. I found him. And do we have a last name? Yes, we do.
Okay, we're not.
Do you want to message me?
Yeah, I'll message you.
Okay.
Don't you worry about a thing. Okay. And now I said you're a retired financier. Liz, is that accurate?
Well, sure. That's fine.
Okay.
That's good and
Accurate enough.
indefinite. Good enough. Close enough.
Good enough for
Close
APG
enough.
work.
Exactly, for government work. Did you get it, Nick?
I did, thank you.
But do you want me to message him, or are you going to, or would you like me to do it? I'm happy to do it.
Would you, if you've got a mo, just
Yeah, I do.
fire off a quick email and say, can Nige get in touch with you on
Right.
that email?
Yep, will do.
Okay, thanks.
To answer your earlier question, iHall boxes, this is the last live recording of APG in the year 2021. It will probably be published. It'll be the first published APG in 2022. Thank you, Carlos. This is my Westin hotel room in Jackson, Mississippi, the Magnolia State capital. Oh,
They don't
I'm
got
glad
a
you
show
liked
title
Liz's
yet.
Intro.
Okay.
What? We haven't even started yet.
I live in hope.
You
Nick wants to start on the artwork right away.
Yeah.
crap.
I'm back.
Well done.
Welcome back. A place to grow. Or
Well,
I'm
to
thinking
grow
about maybe this one for
magnolias.
Liz.
Srivijaya.
Sorry. Yeah.
Srivijaya. Well,
Srivijaya.
if she says Stevie Wonder, I'd understand. But who's Stevie Jaya?
It's an airline, isn't
Jeff,
it?
do you get any points or status for the time in the hotels? No. 0. Zip. Zilch.
We
The
used
only-
to get
the only-
something in Marriott.
Oh, so Marriott is probably and Marriott Bonvoy affiliated places. A lot of times and it depends on the property. Sometimes they'll give you like a stay credit if you give them your account information and you give them a credit card so they can do an imprint so that so you can charge things like if you eat at the restaurant at the hotel or something like that.
Yeah.
I've been doing that lately, and then sometimes that will trigger a stay credit for the night, and then whatever you've spent, you get like minuscule points for that, but not for the actual amount of money that the company is paying for the hotel.
We don't get air miles either.
No,
That would
wouldn't that
be
be
good.
nice?
That would be so cool. In fact,
The,
I tell
the
you
buy
what.
on your own airline for where you're.
Yeah.
1 zillion.
I think they
airlines.
give you money instead, just like a paycheck.
Well, they could do
What?
away with all the staff travel if they just gave us air miles.
Oh yeah, that's true, and we'd actually have a guaranteed seat.
Well, that's why they
Yeah.
can't give you miles.
Okay. So are we getting close to ready?
Ready?
Yeah.
Ready
We
here.
are.
Yep.
Let
ready,
me hit my recorder. Boom. And we'll just assume that I'll be recording something from Clean Feed from you, Liz.
Okay.
As recording.
Me
Clappity
too.
clap, clap, clap.
Okay.
I got clappity clap.
Are you going to do the clap?
No, we haven't done a
No.
clap in
Okay.
months.
I can
I
do
just-
a clap. There you go.
Okay.
Yay! Yay! Us.
Andy H, come on over to the
I'll
tubes,
send him the link there.
YouTubes.
I'll send it to
Okay.
Andy there.
Ooh, wow. That clapping really made a very large waveform on my recording. Whoops. Whoopsies. Okay.
Excuse me. Brewdog.
Oh,
Punk
Punk.
IPA.
Shoot!
Ooh.
I shouldn't have done that.
What's the matter, Liz?
What's a minute? I wanted
What?
to delete
You
my
broke
comment.
it.
No. I did something there I shouldn't have done.
Uh-oh.
That's okay. Got it.
Okay.
I
Right.
put somebody's email address in there instead of the link, if you know what I mean.
Whoops.
Gotcha.
Okay. I think we can get this whole thing going
Okay.
and see what happens.
Goodly.
It's probably not going to be pretty at all. Now, if you're expecting a professional show, tune in to the PTUK on Friday, tomorrow.
Yes.
You're not going to find it here. All right. Here we go. Radio Roger, take it away.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 503. Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. The view from our side of the cockpit door. With your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio 3E at the Westin Hotel in Jackson, Mississippi. Today's show was recorded on the 30th of December, 2021. Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Picture light and he's flying by. The Airline Pilot Guy. In today's episode, a paraglider dies after colliding with a small plane in Texas. All 9 people aboard a charter jet die in a crash minutes after takeoff from the Dominican Republic. More news, your feedback, and today's plane tale. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 503 is ready for pushback.
Thank you, Radio Roger. He is an award-winning TV and radio reporter, currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation. 1010 wins in New York City. Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, a pilot at a major legacy airline based in Atlanta, GA, and joining me from her lakeside studio in South, Dr. Skydiver, marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, and commercial multi-engine instrument-rated backstabbing jumper dumper. It's Dr. Steph.
Hey, Captain Jeff. Good to see you guys. Happy almost New Year. It's New Year's Eve, I suppose. But more importantly than that, it's going to be a great show and really looking forward to it.
All right, and also joining us. No, he's not. I don't know where the heck that guy is. We'll talk about that a little bit
He has
later.
issues.
But here we go. From his studio,
in Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340, captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. It's Captain Nick.
Well, hello there, everybody, from your favourite retard. It's the end of 2021, and I personally am be happy to see it go.
Oh, yeah.
Me too. And to celebrate, let's cover some aviation news.
Let's do it.
Oh, shoot. No. Jeffrey.
What happened?
If you
I
just
thought
look
you were
at
going to
your own
introduce
script.
someone else.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Okay.
I've already
I got
jumped
away
ahead.
with
Yeah,
I
she
I
was
doing
like,
this
yes,
work.
see ya.
Yeah.
I was
bye.
doing this work in the background, thinking and getting all these things set up next, like a professional would. But then I skipped.
It's called
that point,
focus,
so
Jeff.
I'm
Focus.
sorry, Liz. Okay, focus. Okay. All right. Oh. All right. I'll just.
Now you're going to make those little aerials poke out of your head now.
That's right. Like my favorite Martian.
Yeah.
And also joining us today from her studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, retired financier and aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master, and our producer-director, it's Liz Piper.
Hi, everybody. Happy
All right.
almost 2022.
Almost.
Hey, Liz.
Almost.
Last recorded live recording in 2021, and if you're listening to our audio podcast, you're probably saying, no, it's the first podcast on my podcast player for 2022. So we're going to straddle the fence with that one.
Exactly.
And
Ouch.
speaking of straddling fences
Careful,
and
Nick.
being all over the place with our news analysis and opinion, yes? Oh, I thought somebody was saying something there. Let's do some news.
We nearly got caught there.
Almost.
What happened?
Nothing.
We were talking out of class.
But you were very focused, so.
You were.
Stand by for news.
What did I miss?
We were just talking in the back of the
We were
classroom.
just having our
and you
own
didn't
conversation.
notice.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't
What were you saying?
apologise.
Was
It's,
it anything interesting?
Something
the
about straddling
time-
the fence and how painful it can be.
Yeah, I heard you say something about like ouch after I said straddling the fence, but that's all I heard.
That's fine.
So here,
Not all right. We're
one of
doing
the
news
problems
now,
is
Jeff.
I don't have the. I don't. A lot of the times I don't. I have all these other windows up, and so I'm not looking at what we're our videos, and so I'm not seeing your beautiful faces while I'm talking. So sorry. Wow, I'm glad that this is the last live recording of 2021. This is a train wreck extraordinaire. Okay, and that's, I guess, Liz, you're talking to me on clean feed, right? Okay. Yeah, barely, but it's not. Say something again. Okay, I'm just going to bump up your volume on that track a little bit more. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay. What do you think? You want to do the news thing?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure who you were asking, so I'll answer.
Anybody that's listening, actually.
Oh, okay. Yes. News. Let's do it.
Okay. And I don't purposely ignore you guys. I really don't. It's just something. Well, not usually.
That's all right. We understand.
Hey, what do you think we start off with this news item? Mid-air collision between a Cessna 208B Super Cargo Master, November 1116 November, and a powered parachute, or a paraglider, I think it's also called. Crashed near Fulshear, Texas, killing the pilot. That's in the Houston area. The Caravan 208B Super Cargo Master. I guess it's not really a caravan then, is it? Steph?
It is. It's a Grand Caravan.
Oh.
And it's
Okay.
got a cargo pod on the bottom of it in this particular case. Pretty sure.
Oh, well, that's why it's called a Cargo Master then. Gotcha. Anyway, it took off from Houston George Bush Intercontinental Airport, Texas on 9/10 at 9 o'clock, 10 after 9 in the morning on a flight to Victoria Regional Airport in Texas. It reached an altitude of 4,800 feet at 9:22 and remained at that altitude until it entered a sudden, sharp descent at 9:25, according to ADS-B data. The Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office reported that the aircraft had collided with a powered paraglider. The paraglider pilot was found dead about 5 kilometers south of the location where the Cessna had crashed. I have a little local news video on this incident. Let's have a listen.
Marcelino Benito. Tonight, family members are devastated after a small plane collided with a paraglider in midair, leaving 2 people dead in Fort Bend County. The FAA says the small plane left Bush Airport in North Houston this morning and was headed to Victoria Regional Airport, but the crash happened just south of Fulshear. The body of one of the victims and the wreckage of the plane were found about a mile apart. Let's turn now to Matt Doherty with the latest information tonight. Matt.
The FAA says both the pilot and the paraglider were killed shortly after that midair collision. It happened at about 9:40 this morning south of Fulshear, above a sparsely populated area in Fort Bend County. State troopers and Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office deputies located 3 different scenes with objects from the crash. One site was almost 4 miles from the gun range where some of the crash debris was found.
When it went nose first in the ground.
Wyatt Scott says he was nearly killed when the plane went down.
I should have died. I honestly should have died because I was 20 feet away. If I had left the house any later, I would have been dead.
Neither the pilot of the single-engine Cessna nor the paraglider have been identified by authorities. Officials say the crash happened 50 miles from Bush Intercontinental Airport, where the plane departed en route to Victoria. Both the FAA and NTSB say they're investigating the midair collision. The agency's officials say they plan to release more details on the crash tomorrow. Near Fulshear, I'm Matt Doherty, KHOU 11 News.
All right. I think we have a picture from. No, we don't. It's just a video on that one, don't we, Liz? Okay. Let me remove that from our video. Okay, so the Cessna Caravan or Globe Cargo Master, whatever the heck you call it,
It's a caravan.
was 5,000 feet approximately, and it was just outside the Bravo airspace, heading from Intercontinental down to southwest to Victoria. And the paraglider, because it wasn't in Class B airspace, was perfectly legal to be flying in that airspace at that altitude. I mean, I'm not too familiar with paragliders, and I didn't realize they got up that high, but I was listening to something or watching something that said that they can get up to like 15,000 feet. Or maybe even higher, I guess.
They can definitely go pretty high, whether that's a advisable thing to do or not, especially just outside of a Bravo shelf. I don't know. It's all see and avoid, truly, because they do not have ADSB, and these outside of that the ring that you need to have ADSB within if you're under that in or within that Bravo airspace. In this particular case, I think I had listened to some of the ATC audio on this one, and the Caravan, I believe, had wanted to climb to 6,000, but was kept at either 4,000 or 4,500. It's clearly at 4,800 when this happened, according to the ADSB data, but it was for different traffic, I believe, not the paraglider, because I don't think air traffic control would have been able to see them at all. And yeah, just unfortunately never got to his requested altitude for his short flight.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I was just going to say, funny old thing, an old friend of mine who has been very interested in flying, in his 70s, decided that he's going to be a paraglider pilot. He has a little trolley, like a shopping basket. he sits in and gets airborne. But funny old thing, he has decided he's going to carry and use ADSB, on his person while he's flying his paraglider, because of course there is a risk, and if the other person has got it, then there's a chance they will at least be aware of his presence. You're quite vulnerable in these things.
Yeah, ADSB is it's great for anything that's going to be in the sky, and honestly, this is something that I worry about on a regular basis because, there's So we're under Charlotte's class Bravo, but certainly there are sometimes still folks out there below the Bravo shelf. Certainly seen aircraft that, whether they had ADS-B or not, we've not picked it up on our receiver for whatever reason. Usually quite small aircraft, like Cubs and other home builts and experimental things. And you have to be able to see each other to avoid each other. And that's sometimes very, very, very difficult to do.
You know, I've seen the paragliders at Oshkosh when we were there in 2019, and I thought, wow, that's probably very close to like really flying, right?
It's very cool stuff.
Motor strapped to the back of, and it was unusual or interesting to me to see how they got the thing, you know, like the parachute inflated by like running really, really fast with this probably very heavy motor on the back with a propeller on it, you know, and then I guess I got enough speed and the parachute is fully deployed or whatever, in a shape of a wing, and inflated or whatever, and then off they go. It's pretty cool, I think, but I don't know if you'll ever find me getting in one of those.
I mean, I think it would be a lot of fun to do. I don't think I'd do it at 4,800 feet, and I think I would do it someplace where I was pretty sure that I was not going to be in danger of colliding with a much larger aircraft.
Yeah. I think that would worry a lot of people. You do feel vulnerable when you're doing that. But on the other hand, it's a very accessible sport for anyone who wants to get in the air. Mm-hmm. You know, the equipment isn't particularly expensive. You're not really very highly regulated, so you don't have to go through any course at all if you want. You can just buy the kit and fly it in the UK. It's recommended you go through an approved course, but you don't have to. And you can get airborne if you're going to run along the ground. You can get airborne from almost your backyard. It's it inflates and elevates you so quickly. You can climb away and have great fun in it. So I think it's a great sport, but it's mixing with bigger aircraft. I think are the problem. It's not far from ideal.
And this kind of brings up the point of we've mentioned it a few times already. See and avoid, and the weather was nice, and that's what we were supposed to be focusing on when we're flying, especially the lower we get to the ground. We were supposed to be clearing for traffic and everything else. And I'm sure that the paraglider pilot was doing the same. However, they're not going very fast. They're not very maneuverable. They have the right-of-way because of that fact. And, who knows, that single pilot in the Cargo Master Caravan was probably busy doing things, maybe writing things down.
I guarantee you he never saw him. Yeah.
No, and I think, what'd you say, Steph, that they hit the left wing, I think? It took off almost.
I'm trying to remember if it was the right wing or the left wing, but basically from the aileron over, that wing was separated. So a good portion of it. Yeah.
Not enough wing left there for them
or
him
for
continue
control.
flying.
And to be fair, even if the caravan pilot had been doing pretty good lookout, the relative movement you generate in a para wing is going to be small. And so it's not like your peripheral vision, your vision that is really acute, that picks up moving objects, will easily detect him. And obviously they're on a collision path anyway. So, there's going to be no relative movement at all.
I mean, there's been several times where I've passed like those Mylar balloons and things. They're certainly smaller than a paraglider, but they're also not very large, and you really don't see them until it's like, ooh, what was that right there? And it's just not in your vision in a way, like in your field of vision in a way that you can identify it or notice that it's going to be on a collision course with you potentially.
Now, the acute portion of your vision is about the size of your fist held out at arm's length, and the rest is peripheral. And if, like I said, the peripheral will pick up something moving. It's very good at that because we're basically hunters. But if you want to see something that's near stationary, like someone you're going to collide with, you've got to move that fist of good vision around the sky. So you have to scan, and you have to be very active if you want to see everything that you're going to bump into. So, it is a problem. And ADSB is a fantastic tool. So if you can afford it, then buy one, please. You could save your life.
So are there any lessons learned here? I mean, nobody was doing anything illegal.
No.
How could we have avoided this catastrophe?
Very, very difficult.
Better look out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so this kind of comes back to who's got the right of way there. You pointed out, Jeff, the slower, less maneuverable aircraft, in this case, the paraglider. But I think it's, if I were, and I can't put myself in someone else's shoes, and I don't do this type of activity, so maybe there's a lot of things I'm not considering about it. But I would think if I were participating in paragliding, I would be very cognizant of where I'm flying. What to look out for, like much farther out on the distance, the horizon, and probably not get up to altitudes where I'm going to be mixing with bigger traffic potentially.
Yeah,
so, true. I don't know. I don't know how else to avoid this, to be honest.
No, Mark Van Ram mentions Tucker Got YouTube channel for paraglider videos and safety considerations. I'm afraid that whilst your only defence against an mid-air collision is your lookout, there are going to be mid-air collisions because our eyesight is never perfect. There could be a part of the airframe in the way. We could be diverted our attention, single pilot, down to twiddle something in the box. Someone could be coming up from behind. If you're a paraglider pilot, you could be hit from the backside. So that's not going to help you. All the lookout in the world, unless you can peer right behind you. So these things, sadly, are going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm with eye-haul boxes. Every participant in this guy needs some sort of system like TCAS or ADSB or anything along those lines. Both broadcasting and receiving.
Yeah. And then
the exceptions might be actual skydivers because it's a little tricky. They can't avoid as much unless they're under canopy.
And if I'm not mistaken, once you're powered, don't you fall into the same category as all the other powered flying machines under the rules of the air? I think if you're a glider, you fall into a category where powered aircraft are supposed to avoid you, but I don't know. Is there a category of powered aircraft which some have priority over others? I'm not too sure. It's been a long time since I did
slower, less maneuverable
air law exam.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, yeah, a tragedy, but not sure how we could have avoided that. No. All right, let's continue on with this next item. A Gulfstream G4SP. There's a picture of it in the video.
Ooh, that's smart, isn't it?
Santo Domingo Las Americas International Airport crashed. It was destroyed when it was involved in an accident at the Santo Domingo Las Americas International Airport, which is Sierra Delta, Quebec, Dominican Republic. 2 pilots and 1 flight attendant and 6 passengers on board, all killed. Preliminary information indicates the pilot reported an unspecified issue shortly after takeoff from Higuero, which led to the emergency diversion to Santo Domingo. I think the initial or the flight plan was to go from Higuero to Miami, Florida, and something happened right off the bat, and the aircraft crashed. And Liz, you were showing a picture of the jet in the video, and then the next item there is there was a famous passenger in Dominican Republic. He's a prominent Puerto Rican music producer known as Flo La Movie, was reported to be among the dead. And I think there were also, I think the rest of the passengers were Americans. And as I said earlier, they were heading to Miami, Florida when this accident occurred. And There is the, I think there was a flight track. There we go, showing the takeoff from Higuero to initial climb out, heading south, and then they were circling around the city of Santo Domingo, and then worked out that they should continue over to the Santo Domingo airport, or international airport, with longer runways and such. But that is, as far as I know, I don't think there is any more news about this as to what may have happened.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything else about this one.
Okay.
Oh,
very good.
Likewise.
All right. Well, if we hear more information about that, we'll certainly cover it on our show. We'll continue on with this one that happened very recently, a Learjet 35A, November 880 Zulu, in San Diego area, Gillespie Field, El Cajon, California, crashed in a residential area, killing all on board. The aircraft was completing the turn for the final approach to runway 27 right at San Diego Gillespie Field. It struck Pepper Drive in a residential area of El Cajon, San Diego, 2.6 kilometers east of the runway threshold, and burst into flames. Gillespie Tower cleared the flight to land on runway 17. Then the flight contacted Gillespie Tower, canceling their IFR clearance and requesting to land on runway 27 right. This was approved, and the tower controller cleared the flight for a left-hand traffic pattern for runway 27 right. The flight crew then requested the runway lights to be turned up, to which the controller replied, "They are at 100% now." And then shortly after that, the Learjet crashed. Wow, Dr. Dan in our live audience says that this airplane literally crashed 2 blocks from my house here in San Diego.
Good Lord.
Very close.
Wow. That's too close for comfort, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the way I understand it, the weather wasn't great. It was kind of a lowish kind of
Low
ceiling.
overcast, yeah.
And low overcast. And the visibility, I think, was right at 3 statute miles. So
it says
it
3
was
miles
technically
broken, 200 overcast, 26. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
so
260.
technically it's VMC, so you can do visual flight rules at this point. They were flying.
Sorry, broken 2,000. I think I said 200. I meant 2,000.
2,000, yeah, that's more like it.
That sounds better.
Cleared on the RNAV GPS approach to runway 17, and then and that we're looking now on the video. On the left-hand side is the RNAV GPS to runway 17 approach. They were coming in from John Wayne, Orange County Airport from the north, and so I guess this was their IFR instrument procedure in effect at this particular airport. And then as soon as they got below the cloud deck, I guess they saw the airport and requested that the landing on 27 right. Now 17 is about 4,200 feet long, maybe a little bit shorter. And 27 right is about 5,200, 5,300 feet long. So a little bit more than 1,000 feet longer. Now, if you're in a Learjet, I could see, wanting to land on the runway that's a little bit longer. But there are some issues involved with this particular area in the San Diego area. There's a lot of high terrain, and there is a note on that RNAV GPS plate that says that circling in that northeastern quadrant is NA, not applicable or not allowed. And Dr. Dan is confirming that. Okay, yeah, the circle to land ops are NA at night as well. So there are a couple of different notes there regarding circling approaches. However, when the Learjet pilot said they see the airport and they'd like to cancel, I think they didn't say cancel IFR. I think they said they'd like to squawk 1200, which is what you do when you cancel IFR and you go to IFR to VFR. And the tower controller said, okay, understand you're canceling. You're cleared to do the circle no, he didn't say circle. He said enter a left downwind, fly over the top of the airport, fly a left downwind, left base to 27 right. And so that's exactly what he did. So he was legal to do what he was doing there. And I think that what may have happened here is the visibility wasn't great, and just as the incident or accident that we covered in Teterboro not that long ago, a Learjet crashed because they were flying in. They were supposed to break out or break off and align themselves with another runway, and they got in pretty close, and they really kind of racked up the bank and probably the G's on the airplane. And it looks to me like this has all the telltale signs of a high speed, high energy stall and crash. What was I going to say? I'd like to play some video from a couple of Nest. What would you call that? Surveillance camera kind of video. Yeah, the Nest
CCTV,
makes a doorbell and another outdoor
CCTV, cameras, that sort of thing.
Closed circuit.
Yeah.
So let's see. There's actually two here, and they're back to back. So let me play that. Here we go. Here's the first one, and you can kind of hear the airplane coming in over the top of this home. Looks like their backyard. Kind of in a left turn, left bank, and then disappears out of frame, and then you see a very large burst of light and explosion. And that was the first video. And here comes the next one.
Jesus. Babe, something just happened. There's a fire. A jet just crashed, babe.
So we even have the audio of the folks in that home on that second one. And,
yeah, very hard to analyze, but just from the lights, it looked like the guy was overbanking in that left-hand turn. But it's hard to tell. They may not have been wing lights. One may have been a tail light. So, that's very difficult to assess. You need to have some experts, and I'm sure they will take a look at all that information, try and work out what happened. So I'm with you, Jeff. It could be they stalled. It could be they just became disorientated. Because it's a very difficult job when you are trying to switch your vision between looking out for the runway. They're obviously having trouble seeing it. They've asked to have the lights up, and you're mixing that with instrument flying because the visibility isn't good. You're at night, and there's obviously a very poor horizon. It could be one, both, or either, I would say, but very tragic all the same.
Hoping they'll have all the information necessary, like I don't know if they're required to have a flight data recorder. I think they are, and cockpit voice recorder. There was some ATC audio in the last few minutes of the flight there that we're not going to play on the show because it's just too, what would the word be? Tragic, yeah, and graphic. Yes. Okay, well, we're hoping to hear more about this as the investigation continues. Dr. Dan says, from what he can tell, yes, a high bank stall, and there are two very large hills that they were trying to fly between or through. So, okay, Dan said that Dr. Dan is going to send us some audio regarding this as well. Okay. Yeah, anything else to say about this other than it was a tragic accident, as any aviation accident is when lives are lost. And we're hoping that they'll be able to figure out exactly what happened there so that others can hopefully avoid getting themselves into that same situation.
No, that's absolutely right. But it's just if the conditions are poor and you're in any doubt, go around. and think of another way to make an approach, because you really don't want to be putting yourself in a position where you're really having to use all your skill just to stay above the ground. If the conditions aren't good and if things aren't looking right, take the easy option, go around, get on your gauges, climb away, and find an instrument approach you can do where you can do a straight in.
Right. Now, someone online was offering the suggestion that perhaps they could have flown the straight-in approach to 27 right, which is actually not a straight-in approach. It's a circling approach, technically speaking, but it, I believe, had the same restrictions as far as the circling minima and restrictions or the not allowed factor for runway 27 right. So that's probably why it's not the straight-in approach to 27 right. It's a circle approach coming in from the east, heading to the west, which looks like it would line you right up with 27 right, but technically it's a circle approach because of the high terrain very close to the airport.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Gubby, our C-17, Canadian C-17 pilot, says circling approaches are the hardest and most potentially fatal maneuver you can fly, especially when the weather is marginal. Yep, that's what we probably have here. All right, moving on. Yeah, enough of the if it bleeds, it leads segment of our news. This is an item, Boone County, and I'm not sure exactly where Boone County is.
Well, it's where you get all the money.
There's a Boone in North Carolina, but that's a town, and I don't think it's.
Well, there are probably
county.
Boones everywhere, I would imagine.
Probably.
I don't know. And near Covington, maybe that's Kentucky, perhaps? I don't know. Anyway, a Boone County jury awards nearly $2 million to pilot fired for refusing to fly in unsafe conditions. A pilot who flew a private plane for Columbia, Sussex in Crestview Hills, now we know, was awarded $1.99 million in damages by a Boone County jury after he was fired for refusing to fly to the Caribbean as a hurricane threatened. The award includes $1.3 million in punitive damages. The attorney, Anthony Boucher, of whom we have a wonderful picture. We thought it was the pilot, but apparently they don't have a picture of the pilot.
Well, who's really more important in this story anyway? Let's be honest. That is enough to buy a caravan. You're right. I haul boxes.
Yeah. Said the facts of the case were persuasive. Everybody's been on a plane. Everybody's experienced unpredictable weather. So in that respect, this was a compelling case, the attorney said. I never dreamt we'd get the kind of verdict we got, but I'm certainly pleased with it. I bet you are.
You probably had a really nice paycheck for this one.
I'll be honest, I'm not going to have to work for another 10 years. No, he doesn't say that. I'll be honest. In closing, I asked the jury for $1 million in punitive. They came back with $1.3 million, so they were obviously moved. According to his client, pilot Ray... Oh, Indiana. Thank you. Who is this?
Tom Dugan says it's where Cincinnati is, though, so I'm not...
Yeah, that's where Covington is, Cincinnati. Yeah.
So it's somewhere in the Midwest. We've narrowed it down to the Midwest of the United States. Yeah.
Honestly, it really doesn't matter, does it?
No, not really.
That's the middle bit, is it?
Yes. Yeah. As they referred to it, what did they call it on Anchorman? The Middle East of the country or something. Because he's on the West Coast. Yeah.
Well, from that perspective, that does make sense.
I know, it makes sense if you're in California. Anyway.
Yeah. I never understood Midwest, though. There's not even close to the West. Anyway, the pilot was the client. His name Ray Justinick. The weather conditions made it unsafe to fly on that day. He informed his employers he would check conditions on the following day, and if they were safe, he would fly then. When he called in the next day to discuss the situation, he was told that the company had hired a temporary pilot to make the trip the night before. A few days later, he was informed he no longer worked for the company. Justinick was an employee of AirTech, which was hired by Columbia, Sussex to manage its planes and pilots. Fort Mitchell Construction is an affiliated company of Columbia, Sussex, which operates the planes. All three entities are defendants in the lawsuit. So, Justinek had close to 50 years of experience flying, first for law enforcement and then for Delta Airlines. According to FAA rules, pilots who reach age 65 can no longer fly commercial airline jets, but they can continue to fly for private companies if their medical requirements are kept up to date. In January 2017, after retiring from Delta, he took a position flying a private plane for Columbia, Sussex. The company operates about 40 hotels, including the Westin Dawn Beach Resort and Spa on St. Martin. The hotel incurred damage when the island was hit by Irma, a Category 4 hurricane, on September 6, 2017. The company later filed for $175 million in insurance claims. According to the complaint filed by Justinek, on Saturday, September 9, while Irma had moved toward Florida, the owners asked him to load the plane and fly relief supplies and insurance adjusters to the site to assess damages. He would also transport employees of the hotel off the island. The plan was for him to first fly to San Juan in Puerto Rico and then wait there until he could continue to St. Martin. Butcher, the lawyer, said his client came in on that Saturday and helped to load the plane with shovels, rakes, and cleaning supplies, but said he was concerned about weather conditions and where he might stop to fuel up or if he encountered mechanical issues or other concerns during the flight. After checking weather conditions, he informed his company contact that it was unsafe to fly that day and offered to keep an eye on the weather with the hope that the next day conditions would be more favorable. The attorney explained that his client believed that the weather did not look good. He gets home about 4 p.m., starts looking at some weather information. His position was, "I'm 69 years old. I've been loading a plane for 4 hours with 2,000 pounds worth of stuff. I'm not in the position to fly 3.5 hours in any kind of weather." At that point, another hurricane, Jose, was approaching the area and winds had been picking up, the lawyer said. The pilot told the lawyer he called in Saturday night and said he was not flying anywhere that night, and it was looking iffy for the next day as well, but that he would get up early and check. Instead, the company hired another pilot through a temporary agency. We heard that earlier. The next morning, my client, not knowing that they had made that decision, got up at 5 in the morning, put together a flight plan. He said he was prepared to go, but couldn't get any information back from his employers. It was going to be a dicey flight on Sunday, but one he was prepared to make. The hurricane, Jose, had turned north, so he said he was going to try to circle down and come under it. Once he did reach the company, Justinek was told someone else had made the trip a few days later, and then he was informed, as we just learned, that he was out of a job. And then what the attorney said he finds amazing about all of this is what the company did next. He explained that no matter how much experience a pilot has, they must train and be rated to fly specific types of planes. When Justinek was hired, he did not have the rating he needed, but the company agreed to pay for him to get the training. The cost of the training was $34,000. The owner had an addendum placed on the job offer to Justinek that said if he left the company within 2 years for another job, he would have to pay back a prorated portion of the training expense. The pilot agreed to the deal and signed on. Only a few weeks after he was let go, he received a letter from the company stating that he would be sued if he did not return $20,000 of the training cost. According to the termination letter from his direct employer, AirTech, his refusal to fly to San Juan was unjustified and constituted abandonment of his job. When the pilot refused to reimburse the company, his employers filed a lawsuit alleging breach of contract, as well as promissory estoppel. I should have looked that up. How do you pronounce that? Estoppel. I've never seen that word before.
Going back on one's promise in the contract.
Oh, yeah. How did you know that stuff?
I'm just smart. I know things.
In her spare time, she did a law degree.
That's right.
Okay, so going back on his
it's written in parentheses immediately after
yeah.
that word for anyone who's listening.
And unjust enrichment. But you did sound very smart. How did she know
I know.
that?
I just couldn't take credit for that. I had
anything.
no idea what that word meant.
Okay, at the end of the day, I don't know if my client would have pursued a claim against them had they not initiated that, said the lawyer. It was clear from Justinek's actions he did not abandon his job. He had a full intention of flying the plane as soon as conditions allowed. Texts presented in the case showed the pilot and his contact at the company discussing ideas and alternatives for several days, with the pilot providing wind and weather updates. One issue complicating the case in the beginning was the number of different yet interrelated companies involved. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that part. We don't care about that, do we?
No. I mean, I think we got kind of the
the gist of it.
All of it.
Yeah, go ahead, Steph.
I kind of agree with all of this. I you know, without having read what the addendum to his contract said, it sounds like the addendum basically said if he left for another job, like to take another job, then he would have to pay back the rating. Well, he didn't leave, you know, and if they have texts and other things that support that he was just trying to make good aeronautical decisions, then yeah.
And it's not.
I'm a little surprised at the amount of the award, but
yeah, I think everybody was.
Yeah, even including the lawyer, the attorney.
Including the attorney. And Nick and I were talking about this, and Liz as well, earlier before we started recording. And I said it's kind of ironic because I think that it wasn't. I mean, I think that maybe it wasn't a huge surprise by Justinik that he was let go for his refusal to fly that flight down to Puerto Rico and ultimately St. Martin. But when the company said, "Oh yeah, you owe us this amount, $20,000 to help reimburse," and he go, "Well, no way, I'm not going to do that." And that's when the whole lawsuit process started up. And the irony in it is that the company not only didn't get their $20,000 reimbursement for training costs, but they ended up out almost $2 million. So, and now, Nick, you were looking at some of the weather.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just out of interest. I was looking at the weather at San Jose to see how bad it was, or San Juan. And it doesn't actually look that bad. But that's not the whole story, of course, because you've got to think of the weather en route. And, if it looked pretty bad en route and there was no easy option to get into that.
What type of aircraft
airport.
is he actually flying? Would he have needed to stop
that's the
somewhere
other
en route
question.
to
I
fuel,
don't know.
or what are his resources there?
I don't know.
How many?
There are some unknowns here, but he said he discussed the weather. Another pilot obviously found a way to do it, which makes me think that perhaps there was a way to do it. It's just that Mr. Justinik had decided that it wasn't suitable for him, which is fine. Every pilot makes their own decisions, come to that. The company took umbrage at that. I think it's a ludicrous amount of money personally, but I don't blame him for countersuing the company because, if someone wants to try and get money out of me that to cover my training when they've just fired me, I would also feel pretty upset and want to take some legal action in my defense. And it seems to have worked out well for him. So good luck.
Yep.
It does, indeed.
Well, this isn't really what the phrase is meant for, but play silly games, win silly prizes. I feel like the company was trying to play a silly game by asking for their type rating money back in this case, and they won a silly prize. Yeah.
They don't actually say exactly what the wording of his contract was, because it may
have
been a clause in there that allowed them to reclaim if they sacked him under certain circumstances.
Sure.
It's also not clear if he ended up getting another job with another outfit. It doesn't really say that here at all.
Who knows? At nearly 70, he might have been like, forget it. And now he doesn't really need to, I wouldn't think, for the money anyway.
I'd go buy a big boat.
Nick and I were talking about this, and I said, I kind of think what happened here is the guy, he's 69, he's not a spring chicken. And I just turned 63 myself. And, after, spending many hours loading up stuff and looking at the weather going, he's probably going to have to fly at night and it's kind of uncertain weather. And I'm too old for this. Forget this. I'm just going to tell him I can't do it.
That's above my risk, level I'm willing to take.
Yeah.
And Nick's right. Every pilot's got.
He may not have been really, as I said earlier, I don't know for sure, but he may not have been that surprised when he heard that the company had let him go. And we may not even have been talking about this at all at that point until the company said, "Hey, wait a minute! Before you go, we want some money back from you."
Yeah,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I somehow think the company didn't represent themselves very well. If they managed to convince this lawyer, managed to convince the jury that it was worth this amount of money, because I'm thinking. Punitive damages. The guy's nearly 70. Who's going to employ him now, anyway? So
yeah, I would have thought it would have been along the lines of, well, sorry you lost your job. They felt like you could have done it. You disagreed. That's probably up for maybe a little bit of debate. But you don't owe them. Good news is you don't owe them $20,000. Everybody have a nice day. That would have been reasonable.
Exactly. Right. Cover my lawyer fees, please, because that's going to be about
and you pay his legal fees. Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Done.
Yeah. But there you go.
So Nick,
welcome to the legal climate in America.
He's nearly 70. You should have heard Liz's response to that. Almost 70. Oh my God.
That's really old. Yeah. Right.
Anyway. All right. Well, enough of that one. Last but not least, in our news notebook here, we're going to talk about this one, and this is.
Cool. This is a worry.
My head on.
I wish Rick had been here for this.
Yeah, that would have been handy to have some 777 knowledge and experience.
Yep.
Let's see what we can do with it, though. And we may have maybe something from Rick in the future regarding this if we get it wrong. An Emirates Boeing 777-300, registration Alpha 6 Echo Quebec, India, performing flight 231 from Dubai, United Arab Emirates, to Washington Dulles Airport in District of Columbia, D.C., was accelerating for takeoff from Dubai's runway 30 right when the aircraft rotated for takeoff past the end of the runway and became airborne just at the end of the runway and safety area. I meant to look up the length of runway 30 right to see how long it was.
I'll see how long it takes me to get there. Let's see if
it's pretty long.
Nick's probably got it.
I would imagine.
No, I don't, but I seem to recall they're quite big over there.
Yeah, that's what she said. The aircraft continued to Washington for a landing without further incident. The aircraft performed the flight 232 back to Dubai on schedule, then was grounded in Dubai and remained on the ground in Dubai for 4 days. By the way, this
runway
is
30 right is 14,275 feet long.
Yeah, that's long enough.
So, according to Mode S data transmitted by the aircraft's transponder, the aircraft remained on the ground until accelerating through at least 216 knots ground speed, about 4,400 meters or 14,400 feet past the runway threshold. So, yeah, that's why they were in the safety area. And about 90 meters short of the localizer antennas, and was airborne at 75 feet above ground at 234 knots over ground, already over the first residential houses past the runway, which was 18,500 feet.
I bet they went, what?
Like the whole house.
Yep.
Why did my ceiling fan just fall out of the ceiling?
They thought that was the end of the world, I'm sure. 18,500 feet. So that's, 4,000 feet past the end of the runway, and 75 feet, a 777. Wow.
Yeah, that's going to be impressive.
According to yes.
That was it. Wait, hold on. What's that next part? 18,500 feet past the runway threshold they were at?
Yeah. And the runway was 14,275 feet.
Oh, past the threshold. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so not far. 4,000. Okay. I'm with you. Math, got it. Yep.
Gotcha. I mean, there are two runway thresholds here, but I guess they're talking about the
beginning. The beginning, not the end.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. According to information the Aviation Herald received, the aircraft sustained some damage in the departure. There is also information that a total of 4 crew members may have been dismissed as a result of the occurrence. All 4 pilots in the cockpit.
Which is
evidence
a bit of a shame, since 2 of those pilots would have been relief pilots. They wouldn't have been the operating crew. Only 2 guys are the operating crew. The other 2 are just sitting in the back, picking their noses, and that's probably the reason
were they sitting in the back, or were they up front?
They were in the cockpit.
In the cockpit, in the jump
Well, I mean the back of the cockpit.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which puts them in a position where they might be able to notice an error, but they don't really have any active role other than, just letting people know if they see something wrong.
Now, to be fair, there is no. Anytime an incident like this happens, you're going to be taken off of your flying schedule until they can investigate it and maybe take a look at possible administrative or punitive action against the pilot. So it could be that the interpretation is wrong. Maybe eventually they will be fired or let go, or maybe they just took them off.
It might be, but I don't think Emirates are a company that have many worries about just firing people.
That's true.
Just going to put it out there.
Unionized, are they?
They're
not unionized, are they?
No, they're not.
Okay.
They kind of have pretty draconian employment laws over there. So the employer can generally do a lot of things that you might not consider normal in other countries.
Well, on the 27th of December, so just a few days ago, Emirates released a crew alert to their pilots following the occurrence, suggesting that the crew had not picked up that the previous flight crew had left the altitude setting on the master control panel at airport elevation, causing the flight director to not indicate takeoff rotation and climb out, but instead indicate to maintain that altitude ALT mode. So again, here's the crew alert. Company NOTAM, B777 MCP, power up defaults, and after landing shutdown MCP changes. Crews are reminded that there are no flight crew operations manual normal procedure requirements to change the mode control panel, the MCP, after landing or shutdown. There have been times when the MCP altitude window has been set to the airport elevation, which may cause issues on the subsequent departure. The FCOM 4.10.2 states that the AFDS, the autoflight, the AFDS digital, what is that? AFDS will engage in ALT when the first flight director switch is turned on, if the MCP selected altitude is within 20 feet of the displayed baro altitude.
It's probably the auto flight director system.
Okay. Crew shall not set airport elevation on the MCP after landing or shutdown. Okay. So there's people are surmising that may have something to do with this particular incident. The weather, if you're interested, was CAV okay. So very light winds, 2-3 knots. 2 or 3 knots, not 2-3 knots, and temperature 20, dew point 15. It was a nice day. It was nice weather. Yeah. Not even too hot for Dubai. So regardless, okay. So here, if I understand this correctly, regardless of what your flight director bars or system is indicating, if you've flown an airplane for any number of hours,
any length
I'm
of
sure
time,
these crews, any length of time, that these people, had a lot of hours of experience of flying, transport category airplanes, or any kind of airplane for that matter. When you're taking off, you pitch the nose up, and depending on the airplane, it could be 12 degrees, 15 degrees, 20 degrees in my case. It's just that's what you do, regardless of what your instrumentation is telling you to do. And I really find it hard to believe, I really do, that this crew looked at these flight director bars and decided, oh, it's telling me to level off or even descend back down to this altitude, which is ground level. And that's why the airplane got so low. And finally, it took so long for them to climb out. I don't know. That is just almost... we're talking a serious case of what's the I'm trying to find my sound effect here. The children
Magenta
of the magenta.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see.
But you see, we have become what I call children of the magenta. Click, 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 click.
So.
Yeah. I haven't a clue what happened to the automation, Jeff, as I can't see how the autopilot would come active when they're still on the runway, but they didn't even rotate. I mean, who was calling rotate, and why were they still on the ground at 216 knots as they ran off the end of the runway, effectively? I'm going, what on earth was going on? And then having got airborne, to let the apparently the autopilot captured 75 feet, and they remained at that height for another 4,000 feet until they decided that it was time to climb away. I'm going, what on earth was going on? I'm completely bemused.
The autopilot was on. I think it was just the flight director system, not the autopilot system. I mean, I'd be really surprised if the autopilot was on. I mean,
why on earth they decided to stay at 75 feet? I mean, with the airplane racing away.
I mean, I fly much smaller aircraft, but I guarantee you, in the aircraft I fly, if you get to a certain speed, it's going to take off, unless you're holding it physically on the ground, like pushing nose forward, and then you're really actually going to have problems. If you reach rotation speed in the airplanes I fly, probably different in a jet, different wing, but it doesn't take a whole lot to, climb.
No, I can't wait for Rick's take on this. He'll be able to explain to me what this, which says the FDS will engage in out when the first flight director is turned on.
The flight director system, so part of the flight directors.
Yeah.
Yeah, but.
So I really want to know.
I mean, if I see that, I'm going to go, well, obviously there's something wrong with that. I'm not going to do that. That would be completely irrational to do that.
Yes, exactly.
Autopilot.
So I'm hoping that there's got to be something else that happened here, that something else is going on and not this. Because if this is what happened, these people deserve to be fired, in my opinion. And not only that, if the altitude in the mode control panel was set to the airport elevation, how many times in the checklists that they ran, supposedly, are there references to that, like your departure briefing, your navigation briefing, all these different things where you're checking all these things and all these mode control windows to make sure that they're properly set. And in this case, I'd even say that the two pilots that weren't actively in the control seats at that point, I mean, they kind of have a responsibility to make sure everything is set up properly too, So
they do. But the other thing is they actually got airborne. I mean, they must have realized they got airborne off the end of the runway.
And then they continued?
They took the aircraft all the way to Washington. Yeah. What on earth were they thinking there?
It doesn't sound like there was a lot of thinking, as far as I can surmise from
exactly.
the facts in this article.
Exactly.
I would have considered maybe
I'm
just staying in
intrigued.
the United States forever.
Exactly. Rick, help us out. Tell us what went on here.
Yeah. We'll definitely get Rick's take on this. And, hopefully
someone just send it, like Liz, just send it to him now and tell him he needs to let us know what he thinks.
Just record something so we can figure out what the heck happened here. Yeah. We're just pulling our hair or scratching our heads trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll find out a little bit more about that in the future. So in the meantime, I think it's now time for our Getting to Know Us segment.
You're allowed to sing, Jeff. It's your show.
No, I don't want to upset stuff.
Just get the lyrics right. That's all I'm asking.
Well, if I sing it, I'm not going to sing the proper lyrics. Fine. I'm just not going to.
Okay.
I know. Well, I don't always make sense, Liz. Okay. Let's hear about what's been happening with Dr. Steph.
Oh, with me. This is going to be, there was a lot going on last week, and this week, not so much. So it's going to be a brief, short and sweet update from me. Let's see, we had Christmas, and then more importantly, Captain Jeff's birthday, which I'm sure he'll tell us all about.
Really not much to tell.
Sure there is. And then gosh, what else? I'm not even sure. So, last time we recorded, Carlos was still here visiting, correct? And we did.
Did you finally get him out of there?
Finally convinced the UK to take him back. They were.
I was doing my best from this end.
Somewhat unwilling.
We don't want him. So keep him there.
But they relented and accepted. So yeah. So he's got back home in time to celebrate Christmas with his family. So that's very nice. Christmas here, quiet affair. My youngest brother was in town, which was nice, and we agreed on no gifts or anything. We're just gonna hang out and enjoy each other's company, and had Christmas Eve dinner with my neighbors to one side of my house and Christmas Day dinner with neighbors on the other side of the house. And now I have a fridge full of all of those leftovers, and I'm not really sure how that happened, but I will be eating Christmas leftovers for weeks until it rots in my fridge.
I love Christmas leftovers.
They're really, it's really good food, but there's only so many days in a row I can eat ham and potatoes and like mac and cheese and that's gone. And
Yes,
and I'm not even sure. Yeah, there's a lot of food in my fridge. Let's just put it that way. And I ate way too much both of those days. And tried to go for a long run on Sunday with my little brother, and we both struggled a bit in that endeavor because, our stomachs were quite full and unwilling to participate in more vigorous physical activity as of yet. But back to work this week. I was off work last week. Typically a very busy week for us. This week was no exception. It's the end of the year, which in this country means that everyone has met their insurance, their insurance deductibles, and they would like to get any and all elective procedures done before that changes, at the stroke of midnight on December 31st to January 1st. So hopefully we were able to accommodate a lot of folks, and I'm sure there were some that didn't quite make the cutoff. And we'll see how it goes in the new year.
Very good.
Mm-hmm. No real
Very
big
nice.
New Year's plans coming up. Again, hopefully a quiet weekend and spending time with family.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Do the dogs get to enjoy all that extra Christmas food?
They definitely got some Christmas table scraps, I would say.
Excellent. Well done.
Yeah.
Well, Nicholas, I believe that you got out of town right before Christmas or right after?
Oh, yes, we did. Yes, after, 47 years of marriage, my wife finally persuaded me to take her to a hotel for Christmas because she's said, every Christmas I cook and slave in the kitchen for you boys, and I never get a break. So this year we went off to what turned out to be a delightful hotel in the New Forest, a gorgeous area. Weather wasn't brilliant, so he couldn't do a lot of walking. But having said that, we were occupied at every moment. It seemed that from, mulled wine as soon as you sort of stepped in the door, and mince pies through canapes and afternoon teas and, everything that they could possibly throw at you. The Christmas luncheon was a 7-course meal. With a line of wine glasses that resembled, pieces on a chessboard. There were so many of them. And poor Jilly, she had been put on some new medication because her knee's giving her a lot of hassle. And she didn't want to drink. So...
So does that mean that you had to, unfortunately, drink her very, very... I'm
afraid I had to. I manfully managed to drink all 10 glasses of wine. I know, which went from champagne through all the colours, including some really nice reds, down to
that explains why
you
spent some time in the local holding cell at the in town. Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it really was lovely. Excellent service from the lovely staff there. It was great at the Ramfield House Hotel. We came back, and then Julie realised that she still had to cook Christmas lunch because the boys now arrived and went, we haven't got haven't had Christmas yet.
Now wait a minute, didn't you leave?
Aren't they adults? Couldn't they have cooked the meal?
Yeah,
us
Jilly
on the last
provided
show
them
that-
with a meal. They could have just followed the instructions, but the one that was capable of doing that, sadly, was still isolating after a bout of COVID. So he wasn't here for Christmas Day. He arrived the next day, and by that time we were back. So Jilly stepped in and did it. So we had 2 Christmases, effectively. Lots of lovely presents. Very happy. And now it's all over. Thank the Lord for that.
Yes.
I'll never get that
Wonderful.
money back.
No, it looked like an amazing place that you were staying, and just
it was beautiful,
incredible,
absolutely beautiful.
feasts
Yeah,
that you were enjoying. Yeah.
I don't think I can afford to go there twice, though.
Very good. Any plans?
So that was my Christmas. No, we don't kind of do New Year really. We're going to be up with one of our dogs in particular who gets very upset. So we're going to be looking after him. So we won't go anywhere. We can't afford to leave him and watch him have his poor tantrums when all the fireworks go off. So we'll have a quiet one at home, and I'll probably stay up with him and see what happens. So fingers crossed it's not too bad.
Fingers crossed. All right.
Yes.
So let me get this straight. The dog gets upset about the fact that it's the end of the old year and the new
Oh
year
yeah,
is about to
yeah,
start.
really upset. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
He doesn't like resolutions and.
No, he never. And if he makes any, he never sticks to them either.
Oh,
what a bum!
Well, that's
dreadful dog. Yeah.
So my Christmas was enjoyable, especially Christmas Eve, because I did a lot of singing, as I want to do.
Yeah, you were a busy boy, weren't you?
Did you get the lyrics right?
I do actually, for the most part, get the lyrics right.
Okay, good.
I don't change them on purpose, anyway. And yes, good point, Liz. The people in church are much more forgiving and understanding than certain co-hosts of a certain aviation podcast.
That's very true. Yes.
Yeah, I'll give them credit on that one.
Anyway, so I enjoyed that. Started at the 4 o'clock, the 6 o'clock, the 9 o'clock, and then the 11:30, which is essentially our midnight mass. And drove home up to the cabin after that. Got in a little after 2 o'clock, 2:15, 2:30, something like that. And had a couple of beers and just sat back and relaxed, and then went to bed. And then the next day was Christmas Day, and didn't have to drive back down to Roswell to do any more singing. I was basically off, had a nice quiet Christmas Day up at the cabin. And then the next day was my birthday, the 26th of December. I know most people refer to it as Boxing Day or some silly
Yeah, they
thing.
get the holiday name wrong. That's weird. But
Yeah, it's the Feast of Jeff Day.
Exactly.
Anyway, so I enjoyed the day in isolation up in the cabin, and was just a bum, and watched things on TV, and just as far as I remember, that's all I did. So when you say that I had a great
did you
birthday
also have
celebration,
10 glasses of wine?
I probably did.
Okay, fair enough.
And a case of beer or something. I don't know. Maybe all. I'd really rather not say. Thank you.
Fair enough. I will say both of my neighbors are avid wine drinkers, and it was pretty much all I could do to not. I had to make sure my glass always had enough wine in it that it wasn't in danger of being refilled by someone, not me. Because that would happen.
The Captain Owl.
The Captain Owl trick, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 2 more years to go. Yeah, I was telling people.
Is that it? Is that all
actually
that's left?
Yeah,
the end is near. Oh wait.
On my birthday,
Came out wrong.
it was Saturday, and I did drive back down to Roswell and sing in a couple of masses on Saturday. So, I'm sorry, my birthday was Sunday. Yeah. Anyway, I know. I'm getting all confused now. I'm not sure what the heck I did.
I'm not surprised.
It's all the wine drinking and beer drinking, I think, is clouding
Your
my
age too.
recollection.
Jeez. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I can tell you this, that I am on a trip now. I left yesterday. It's a very, very difficult trip. One flight to Dallas yesterday. And then today, two flights, went to Atlanta and then here to Jackson, Mississippi. Now, I have to say that we got out of Atlanta with good timing as far as weather was concerned yesterday. Not so much today. The line of weather going through Atlanta was not very pleasant. That was probably the most turbulence that I've encountered in the 717 since I've been on it. And I was very surprised that the autopilot didn't disconnect. That's how, bumpy it got. But we had everybody prepared and had our flight attendants seated, and everybody was expecting us to get a bump or two. And we just had to get through that line to get on the other side of the airport so we could land. So that worked out okay. And then from Atlanta to here, the weather cooperated a little bit better. There were little spots here and there close to the Atlanta airport when we left, but soon after we departed and were in our climb out, things improved very rapidly, and we got here without a problem. And so the exciting part of this trip is tomorrow and tomorrow night. Tomorrow we go from here to Atlanta early in the morning and then get to Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
I know someone who lives there.
And it's
we do know
New Year's Eve.
We know a certain producer director.
Break out the wine glasses.
Yeah, Liz says she has 10 glasses already set out
Each?
for me. So I get to spend my New Year's Eve with Liz. And
Yay! Well done.
Excellent.
That's
and I'm really looking forward to it too.
Yay!
Good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I was kind of disappointed that, Liz, you couldn't make it down to Atlanta for the 500th episode, and I know that you were very, very disappointed by that as well. But hey, we're going to make it up and have a great time tomorrow night.
Absolutely,
and,
should be fun.
I can't say that we'll be staying up until the crack
because you got an early morning on Saturday.
I have a very early morning sign-in on New Year's Day, so. Yeah, I'll have to keep the wine drinking to a minimum and get as good a night's sleep as I can. There's only one flight back home to Atlanta on Saturday morning, I guess. So there you go. That's what
those
we have
TSA horrors. They'll be on the watch out.
Yeah.
Will they?
Oh, don't they do that
in
the States?
They'll be recovering themselves.
Yeah, they're going to be in the same
boat
boat as everyone else.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, there you have it. Now you're all caught up with me and the rest of the crew. Oh, and we mentioned earlier that Rick was... called out. No, not called out. He had an issue,
minor medical problem.
Issue. Yeah, a medical
That's
problem.
right.
He couldn't. It's a vision problem. He couldn't see doing the show today.
Yeah, they call that some form of glaucoma. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's time.
No,
now
he does
to
not
move
have
on
that.
No, he does not have glaucoma, as far as we know.
No, I'm the one with glaucoma.
Oh, okay.
It's anyway.
Anyway, yeah.
Forget I said that. I'm not making that joke on air. It's fine. People will know where I'm going.
Yeah, well,
it's fine. Moving on.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Here we go. Let's talk a little bit about the coffee fund, which...
Johnny, how much more coffee? No thanks.
...is your way.
I love coffee.
Well, let me sing first.
I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the job and me. A cup.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jeff Smith in Nashville, Tennessee, our jingle master extraordinaire, singing the Java Jive, the APG version. And the reason why he's doing that is because we talk about our coffee fund, which is your way to support the show financially, if you have the financial resources to do so. It's been a while since I've mentioned the fact that if you are someone who is spending money on sustenance and clothing and shelter or flying lessons, spend it there. Don't send it to us. But if you have some extra pennies or pence left over, please consider joining this great group of people, our Coffee Fund cadre. And a couple different ways to join the Coffee Bar Club is, well, the first one is the Coffee Fund Classic method. A couple different things you can do with that. You can make a one-time donation, as Michael Smith did, a very, very generous donation. Thank you, Michael. Or you can do recurring donations, as Vignir and Alistair have done. So thank you guys for that. Also, you can become a patron of the show via Patreon. And all that information is available to you by going over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. You'll be glad you did. We will too.
Captain, incoming message.
Yeah, I hear you. I was waiting to say anything so I wouldn't talk over the bumper. So we forgot. The control room is telling me that I've forgotten to do the cover art from the last show. There we go. Last show, episode 502, it's kind of a mess. In fact, we saw some gory pictures regarding was a heron that was the heron bolognese. I thought those pictures were gross, but no.
Leave it to Nick to come up with something even more gruesome.
Yeah, it was.
He's like, "Oh, you want blood and guts? I got it."
Yeah, we got that covered.
No.
I kind of went rogue. Sorry about that.
You did.
It was kind of a mixture.
And then no one even questioned it. We're like, "Yeah, that's fine, thanks."
That's good.
Exactly right. What's that cartoon made by the same people that used to make The Simpsons? It's in the future.
Futurama? No.
Yeah, Futurama.
No, it's Futurama.
Don't they have a deadly Santa that in that one that goes and blows everyone up?
I never watched it, actually.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I kind of had that in my mind, and helicopters buzzing arenas and Santa getting involved and blood and guts. So there you go. I noticed that I managed to make one helicopter nicely saving a deer. Did you notice that in the top corner? There you go. There's a deer suspended on a
I did notice that. That is very...
I personally think that bloke's taking it to Steph to drop in her backyard.
Good, just so I need more deer in my backyard. Thanks.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I thought.
Yeah, the deer sanctuary. It's going to look a lot like this picture with Steph.
No.
Sees that deer.
No.
Yeah. Neil Lamb spotted the episode number as well. Well done, Neil.
Oh, very
You
good.
must have a big telly.
Or something. Anyway, we entitled the show, "Oh Dear." All right.
That certainly was.
Well, so there we go. We covered it. A little out of order. So now we get to continue with our show and do some feedback. Does anybody need to take a break before we do that?
Not yet.
No, I think I'm good. Because I haven't had
I'll take my break during Plain Tales as usual. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm on my hazy IPA, Little Things.
Hazy Little Thing. That's a great
Nevada.
IPA.
Oh, that is a good. Sierra Nevada.
That was one of my Christmas presents.
Yeah, great beer. I actually have a few of those around right now, I think. Mm-hmm.
Wow. But according to Carlos...
The sour one is really good.
Who came and stayed with you recently? It was Carlos, wasn't it?
It was Carlos,
He said the place was absolutely stacked, full to ceiling with beer. Wow, can't wait to visit.
What's the point?
Is there a problem?
What?
Well, doesn't everyone have a beer fridge in every room in there? No.
I think the most impressive thing I've ever seen was Justice's refrigerator.
Oh yeah, you think my house is full of beer? No, his house is full. His house is like beer museum.
Excellent.
It's full of beer that he's never even going to drink. I don't think it just is there.
That's the sad part and the puzzling part.
Mm.
Yeah.
Anyway, Well, enough beer talk. Okay. So just to be sure that you don't feel like you are losing your mind or experiencing Groundhog Day, like the movie over and over and over again. I made a mistake when I was editing the last show, and I was, doing the show notes, and I'm thinking, what heck? I know we talked about this particular piece of feedback that we're going to do again. What happened to it? And I think there was some issues with my internet, or actually with my thumb hitting this button on the side of my mouse, and I kept taking myself out of the show, and it was user error, of course. And I, in the midst of trying to fix it in post, I ended up taking out this entire piece of feedback. And I did contact Jeffrey Brent, the MD and PhD in Colorado, and said, "Hey, look, if you see the video, you'll hear us and see us covering your feedback. But if you listen to the audio only podcast, you're going to wonder why we didn't cover it. And this is why, because I screwed up. So I told him we're going to cover it again. So you aren't losing your minds, folks. We are covering this again. And this is feedback from Jeffrey. He says, just for your information, you're probably aware of this, but just in case you're not, there is really an APG airline. And then he gave us the link to this airline. And I think that, as Dr. Steph correctly pointed out on the last episode, I think she, along with Carlos and maybe even Armando, I don't remember at what point Armando joined the fray over there last week. But
yeah, he joined in and then contributed a little bit, and then he and his lovely bride sat on the couch and heckled, and then they left and went downstairs and drank beers, I think. Yeah.
Very disgusting. Anyway, you looked it up and found out this is a French airline, and when I say airline, I'm being generous. It's a very small little outfit that I'm not even sure if they do scheduled air service or this is more of a charter outfit. But there's the tail of the King Air, and I believe you said it was a 350, Steph.
I think
APG
so, yeah.
Airlines. And anyway, so as we said when we covered, there's the interior of the King Air and the APG Airlines airplane.
Yeah, have our lawyers sent them a cease and desist yet?
I was just going to ask our control room. We've hired the lawyer that won that almost $2 million lawsuit.
Yes. Can I buy my own caravan now?
It's a win.
Yes.
Excellent.
How many million should we ask for?
4. 5.
At least. That's only one
$1 million
each.
apiece.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah. So
sorry, I'm getting all choked up at the thought of winning $1 million.
Yeah. MD, PhD, Distinguished Clinical Professor of Medicine at the University of Colorado School of Medicine and Colorado School of Public Health. Very accomplished person. Thank you for pointing that out. And as we said, our lawyer or lawyers, our team is on it.
Mm-hmm.
Sue their pants off. Yeah. Although I think that we pointed out when we covered this last is that we fly for Acme Airlines, not APG Airlines. So maybe we'll let them off the hook.
Just this once.
As long as they don't ask us
again
to reimburse their type ratings.
Yeah.
I think that's generous, Liz. She's saying we should only ask for half of what we were originally going to sue for.
Good point.
Okay. I think that's reasonable. Mm-hmm. All right. This feedback from Stefan. He says, small feedback regarding episode 499, the last topic of the show, flying in wildfire smoke. Back in the Gulf War I and the burning oil wells, Airbus and Boeing produced a procedure regarding crude oil smoke. Examples, Boeing 747. Again, that's from Stefan. He sent us a link to this, and there's a link to a FCOM bulletin for the A310 regarding crude oil smoke. Anyway, smoke from crude oil fires can spread over a large area well beyond the source of a fire. Commonly, the smoke will form a thick layer of dense, dark cloud with a top of 5,000 to 10,000 feet. Smoke from crude oil fire is composed of oil particles, soot, and gases with a high sulfur content. And we were talking about the fact that you can expect turbulence from pyrocumulus clouds and other things caused by fires, whether they be a forest fire or crude oil fire or whatever kind of fire. But we weren't absolutely sure about what effect it would have on engines, especially engines of reciprocating, piston powered engines or airplanes. And the effects part of this article says operation of engines and aircraft systems should not be immediately adversely affected by the smoke, but prolonged exposure will lead to airframe and systems contamination. And also, one way to a defense in this situation is to monitor your engine parameters and note and report any parameter shift to maintenance. And then we'll put a link to this A310 FCOM bulletin regarding crude oil smoke. So that's really the only information that we've been able to secure or find regarding the effect of fire smoke on engines.
Yeah, I didn't expect there to be a significant effect, quite honestly, even in quite dense smoke. You're definitely not going to exclude enough oxygen to affect the engine, I wouldn't have thought. But then again, what do I know? I'm retired.
I think that, well, because you have a vast body of knowledge.
Yeah, but I don't care anymore.
Smoke from crude oil fires or from a bunch of
Pratt & Whitney JT-80s.
JT-80s.
From all the coal that gets shoveled into
those B-52s flying over, yeah.
I love
Sorry, Liz, I was trying to add that to the thing at the same time you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good engine. I've been flying that darn engine for many, many years.
What, the same one?
Not anymore. The same one, yes. It's
wow.
Putting out a lot of smoke.
It lasted a long time.
But I think that the greatest risk, as we mentioned before when we covered this in 499, is the restriction to visibility. I think that's probably one of the most the highest risk from flying in smoke. Okay, let's move on. We have a video or a link to a video that was sent in by Chris. Is this Chris? Cheatwood. Oh, we haven't heard from Chris Cheatwood in a while. Thank you, Chris. It's a link to a YouTube video from, what is his name? Swain Martin, I think. Airline pilot attempts working the ramp, throwing bags, plus more. And so I'm going to play just a little bit of this, without permission, of course.
About time that an airline pilot tries working the ramp.
It is about time. Said airline pilot working the ramp and throwing bags and oh no, not emptying
the ramp is chaotic.
Toilets.
Planes and carts, bags and people moving everywhere. And to be honest, as an airline pilot, when I park at the gate, I don't really know what's going on below the wing because we've got a lot going on in the flight deck to prepare for our next flight. And we don't get to see the specific challenges that our ramp crews are facing here on the ground.
What? He doesn't do walk-arounds?
He doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oblivious. Never, like, what? You have to fuel the airplane and,
what
empty
is
the
going
lab
on? What
and
is that hose?
bags. I have no idea. I don't want to know. It's fine. I'm totally joking with this guy. Like, his point was that they're busy and they're just not looking at all the details of what's happening all the time. Yeah.
Right. You made some good point. And it's interesting. It's educational. It's entertaining. We'll have a link to the video in our show notes because
it's never a bad idea to know, what the folks you're working with what their job entails, your support crew and other things. So.
Absolutely.
applaud him for
In
doing
fact,
this.
part of our commander's course was to go and visit and work with every department on our airlines. So, you've got a vague idea of what goes on behind the scenes.
Yep, and gives you good appreciation for the challenges that they deal
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Yes. Swain. Again, I don't remember his last name. Is that right? Swain Martin. Anyway, well, just follow the link and you'll see who this young man is.
The chat room has a lot of praise for his videos, so apparently a lot of good aviation knowledge going on there. Check him out.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's got quite a following on YouTube. I think it's like almost 250,000 subscribers.
Oh wow!
Hey, folks, you got to get on the stick here. I mean, we don't have nearly that number.
I didn't realize there were that many people watching YouTube. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right.
250,000 of them? Golly.
Yeah. Am I reading that? Are you being sarcastic because I overinflated his subscribers?
No, it's fine. You carry on, Jeff.
I could have sworn it said 245,000 subscribers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Could be
I'm
wrong.
sure that's correct.
Won't be the first time. Anyway, thank you, Chris, for sending us that the link to that video. All right, continuing on. Jeff, spelled the incorrect way with a G, sent this in to us. Just kidding. Of course, I think that's probably the original way.
I put them in the same category as people who spell Steph with an F. So.
Yeah, STEFF. It's not FF, folks. It's PH. Anyway. He says, this is not my first feedback, but it's the first that I hope is not a bunch of CFR mumbo jumbo. I do not know where or when I started listening, but I have enjoyed most of it. Wait a minute. Most of it? Why not all of it? While it's hard to sit through the hours and hours of current shows, even at 2 times the speed boost, wow, that'd probably be interesting.
Try talking fast. You're getting really confused.
Right. I've tried to go back and listen to previous shows. What a daunting task that is, but well worth it. Maybe by the time I retire, I will have listened to them all. I can't do it much longer than that. It definitely will not be before Jeff retires, as that is just right around the corner. Yeah.
Well, at 2 times speed it is, yeah.
Yeah. I've not been in the left or right seat of a GA aircraft since I soloed back in the very late 80s as a teenager. But it was fairly recently, after listening to a few of your shows and some others, I was crippled by the APG disease syndrome. Under the guidance and encouragement of my son, who is blazing a path for his dear old dad, I decided to return to a more direct role in aviation and am on path to get both my AMP and pilot certification. Wow. He wants to be like Rick. I figured I would start with the A&P as it requires the more formidable task of 1,900 hours plus of instruction, as outlined in 14 CFR Part 141.21. Commercial pilots only need as little as 1,500, and I figured anyone could do that, so I would take the more difficult path first. Wink, wink, he adds. I'm currently attending a Part 147 school and will soon be giving up my career as a travel agent to the U.S. military. Why? Well, as of this very date that I'm writing, I have completed 2 of the 3 phases as outlined in CFR Part 65.71 through 65.95 of the program. I can now take my written test for the airframe part of the A&P, Airframe and Power Plant certificate. I've enjoyed listening to your show so very much. Thank you for pointing me to the other shows like, shall we even mention that one? Yeah, I guess we
No, don't.
I think contractually we're obligated to every once in a while. That's kind of vague
it's been a while
in
since
terms of the
mentioned it.
Yeah.
God.
Opposing bases, OB, that are easier and quicker to consume, even at a fraction of the listening speeds available on my podcast app. But seriously, congratulations on breaking past the 500 mark. Keep up the good work. And this again, Jeff, Geoff, from Flight Team Aviation. That's awesome, Jeff. We're glad that we were here to inoculate you with the syndrome.
Yep. I think you infect them. You can get inoculations, but
they're not effective.
Very
we haven't
nasty
found it.
side effects.
I mean, they don't work. So,
Can someone? I'm like a normal person. I don't know what CFR means.
Code of Federal Regulations.
Oh, thank you. From myself and the rest of the world, thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome. It applies only to those of us in the United States. The rest of you can forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
True. Yeah, when we talk about Part 121, which is scheduled airline
those are all
flying,
parts
Part
of the
135,
Code of Federal Regulations.
14 CFR.
Uh-uh.
No, you
Code
just
of
make it
Federal
up.
Regulations. Yeah.
You're right,
well,
we make
do
it
that
up.
too. A lot of
Moving
that we do. About 50% of it. Anywho. Thank you, Jeff, and good luck, and keep us informed as
definitely
to
good
your
luck.
progress. Yeah.
Yep. Don't forget to get that nice big set of hammers that you engineers need.
There you go.
Or mechanics. They are mechanics in the States, aren't they?
Mechanics, yeah.
Yeah, we usually say mechanics.
Yeah.
Engineer is something slightly different.
Yeah, he drives the train in America, doesn't he?
Sometimes, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
And also people that do things, practical applications of science, I guess. Would that be a good way to...
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I was going to say engineer things, but that's not super helpful.
See what you did with that one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, very good.
Well, you can't say people mechanic things. That doesn't really work the same way.
Well, you can. You just sound
It just doesn't
stupid
make
doing
any
it.
sense.
All right. And leave it to
Excellent.
me for saying the stupid things stuff. Come on.
Anyway, I tried to give you an out on that one, but
Yeah, but that's okay.
you doubled down on it, so fair enough.
I don't take myself too seriously. Yeah. So, and apparently nobody else does either. Anyway, my name is Josh. No, my name's Jeff. But this guy that sent in this piece of feedback is Josh, and he's currently a high schooler in San Diego.
Woo-hoo.
Ever since I found your podcast a few months back, I've begun to seriously consider your mental health. No, seriously
Don't
consider
do it.
becoming
Don't
a
do it.
commercial pilot someday, perhaps a symptom of APG syndrome. Who knows?
Possibly.
However, I also would love to help protect the environment a bit by becoming an engineer on aircraft engines.
Ooh, more engineers.
There you go.
A mechanic on aircraft engines.
Yes. Well, but
So
you can
you can-
engineer. You can be an engineer that designs aircraft engines, but then if you're going to just work on them, you'd be more of a mechanic.
Yeah.
Right.
English is
Like,
not
for
confusing at all. Don't worry.
No.
It's fine. For those of you who are listening to
Especially
this podcast in hopes of improving your English, that concludes today's lesson.
Well, let me point out that in
Liz.
Britain, engineers work on aircraft and engines. So, it's perfectly...
We've got 3 different countries that have English as a main language represented here today. So, we're just all confused all
Yes,
of the
we
time.
are.
Absolutely.
We're sad people. Anyway, I would also love to help protect the environment a bit by becoming an engineer on aircraft engines. So I was wondering if it's possible to become both.
Yes.
That is, be a part-time commercial pilot. Let me know. I'm not too clear on the number of required hours that a pilot has to fly every month/year. I know somebody that might have the answer to that. And somebody who happens to be a part-time commercial pilot, right? And a doctor.
Yes,
guess you
that's
could
true.
say.
But I think he used the term commercial pilot, but I
Commercial
think he's
airline.
referring to airline pilot. So we'll get both answers here in a moment.
Okay. Yeah, Stephen Ivey is a good example of that.
Mhm.
For the new segment, I have some pieces to share. Seems like both Boeing and Airbus are having issues of their own, with the A350 having severe paint issues and the 787 having serious manufacturing defects, as well as the beloved 737 MAX having had its whole MCAS ordeal a while back. How come the big 2 OEMs are having such serious issues? I know both the planes incorporate groundbreaking technology, but it seems that with the A320, which was the first fly-by-wire aircraft that debuted all the way back in the 80s, when computers were much weaker, never had any major issues. Or even consider the 747. The massive jet that debuted all the way back in the 70s never had any major issues with its design. Just thought that was interesting.
Well, I was going to laugh about the Airbus
Got that road,
one.
Josh.
Nah.
I'm
Well-
just going to say, well, the engines kept falling off. That was one major issue they had. I'll just throw that one out there. Boom.
I'm just looking at the
It's like a bit of
waveforms
a
here because you
drop.
seriously overmodulated with your very boisterous laughing.
Well, I was dropping the mic. Boom.
Yeah.
Sorry
Well, would
about
you
that.
mind dropping it a little bit harder? Because I can still hear you. All right. Let's continue with our feedback, please. Last, congrats on the 500th episode. I wish the entire crew well. Have safe travels. Enjoy the joyful pushing people out of flying planes, and have fun drinking IPAs. I don't think I should be saying that as a minor, though. Well, too bad. You already did, Josh. And we do appreciate the thought. And when you get old enough and you enjoy drinking beer, possibly, we'd love to share one with you and find out about what the future holds for you as far
Absolutely.
as piloting
Yeah.
and engineering and all that jazz. So, Steph, what were you going to say about doing this part-time commercial airline pilot and being an engineer on aircraft engines?
I think it's entirely possible to do both things. That's not easy. But I think you can work on all of your flight ratings and certificates and that good stuff while you're in school still. You could even start now, depending on how old you are, Josh. I don't know if he told us what grade.
He just says he's in high school.
High school.
Yeah.
So, you can start working on it now. You can solo when you're 16 and then get your private when you're 17 and keep working on ratings from there. So never really too soon to start working on that. And in the meantime, especially if you're thinking about going the route of being a airline pilot, most major airlines still have that requirement for a 4-year college degree. So I would do something in engineering, and then you can really work on dividing your time however it works best for you. There's no right or wrong there. I do know of people, you mentioned Stephen Ivey, who has had a job flying jets for a regional airline and also a job outside of that. I can think of a few other folks that I've known from Twitter and other places who have held 2 different careers, sometimes teaching and flying and various other things. So, in my case, I'm not an airline pilot. I have a commercial certificate, but I can use that on the weekends to fly for certain types of compensation, and I do that flying skydivers. So during the week, I've got my day job, and on the weekend, I consider the flying to be very much for my own personal mental health and sanity, but at the same time, it is for compensation, and therefore to different standards potentially than if you were just going out and flying safely for fun around poking some holes in the sky. But so you do have to be very it's still a job, right? And both are jobs, so you have to take that into consideration in terms of how much time you want to spend on quote unquote work each week, I would say. Because when you're taking on flying as a profession or as a job, there's time requirements, there's hour requirements, and you make a commitment to it a little bit differently than if it's just for hobby or fun.
Very good.
Well
Anything
said.
to add?
And I'd just like to raise my finger and go, the paint issues. Only one airline has really had a big problem with those, and I think it's just a bit of cracking paint. It's not really a major problem.
Thank you to our Airbus apologist.
Yes. Oh, only
Laura
one
Davis.
airline has rejected their aircraft because of it. A couple of have had a few paint crack problems. I don't think if your paint cracks off, you're generally too worried about it. But there you go.
Yeah, I don't think that's really a big issue. Paint issues compared to serious manufacturing defects.
Yes.
Affect be much more important. Anyway, Laura Davis in our live audience says, another young'un who's sadly fallen into the grips of the APG. Maybe the show should start with a warning for immature audiences only. Oh, Laura.
Oh, yes, but it should definitely start with a warning. I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick for Jeff, though, there was something else I was trying to think of with Josh's feedback. he was wondering about the required number of hours that a pilot has to fly. Does your airline have any requirement for number of hours?
I don't
Obviously,
think so.
my flying work is very different. There's no set number of hours that are quote unquote required. And
in my experience, Steph, you normally have to be a full-time employee until you've got to a certain stage, and then in your career they might allow you to move to part-time, as my airline did. There aren't many airlines, proper airlines, that will just employ someone on a part-time basis. You might be able to get a job with I don't know, on an exec jet, or with a company who's got a few of its own aircraft and just needs a pilot every now and again. That might be the way to go, but that'll be a bit of a one-off job rather than a usual run-of-the-mill airline job.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I think perhaps that's slightly different here in the States, but
as far as I know, I don't think that there's any requirement like from the FAA that says you have to, to maintain your certificates or qualifications as an airline pilot, you have to fly a certain number of hours. I think mainly because here in the U.S., our pay is based on the number of hours we fly per month. And so to get a regular paycheck, we are motivated by that fact. And we fly a decent number of hours. It's probably also something that your individual airline and the contract that it has, if it's represented by a union, has with the company. So I think there are a lot of different answers. I couldn't
cut you off fast enough to say this, and I didn't want to, but iHaul Boxes also brings up the qualifications aren't hours working for your company.
Right.
It's your currency requirements, right? So 3 takeoffs and landings every 90 days. That's requirement for flying in general, but for work flying, it's probably very company specific, as both Nick and Jeff had said.
And you would think that if you're an airline pilot, that getting 3 takeoffs and landings every 90 days would be a piece of cake. Well, it depends on what kind of airline flying you're doing. On my airplane, I get 3 takeoffs and landings every time I go out on a trip, at least. But if you're an international long-haul pilot, sometimes that's difficult to get 3 takeoffs and landings every 90 days. And in fact, I know Nick can talk about this, but I know people that are flying international that sometimes have to go into the simulator to get that requirement taken care of, just so that they don't become unqualified.
That's exactly right, Jeff. And particularly early on in your career, when you're a first officer doing ultra long haul, you may be one of 3 first officers on an aircraft. The captain will get 1 landing, one of you will get the other landing, and that's your trip done. And if you do 3 of those a month, you may well not get a landing a month. So, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, very different. Sometimes, I think, just me alone, work-wise, my record is 20 takeoffs and landings in a day.
Wow, so did you get any right?
Don't need to worry about
Did I get what?
Did you get any right?
Hopefully 1 or 2 in there. Maybe 50% if I was lucky. I'm not sure.
Excellent. Yeah. So that was 20 times you actually landed.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good job.
I mean, yeah.
I think that's brilliant. No, I mean, I used to do that in the Air Force all the time.
Yeah.
Because we'd launch off for an hour and a half mission. You'd come back with an extra 10 minutes of fuel until you just pound the circuit and until you ran out of fuel, basically. So we used to get lots and lots of hand flying, lots of landings.
Our flights take about 20 minutes per round trip, and they just go
nonstop
all day.
You get a lot of landings. Yeah,
a lot of landings.
Yeah, great.
2 landings
for
every approach. Yes, iHaul Boxes.
Well, I'm sure
feedback, Josh.
Steph could manage 3 or 4 for each approach if she wanted.
If I wanted to. It's not very kind to the airplane. It's got to take a lot of...
Those twotters, they could stand a bit of that.
They're pretty robust.
Yeah.
Caravan too, for that matter.
Cool.
Sorry about the latency. I guess we have a lot of latency today again. So I seem to be talking over everybody, and I don't mean to.
That's right. We're not listening, Jeff. It's fine.
I just updated my router. Yeah.
Alrighty. Next item is from Keith. He said, "This is Keith from Little Rock. I just finished listening to episode 500. What an amazing accomplishment and awesome show. The memories were hilarious and tons of fun. I just gave a coffee fund donation, thank you, Keith, to help replenish the cup after such a great event. In other news, I recently got started on my sport pilot's license, something that I've wanted to accomplish for a number of years, and listening to your show has given me the inspiration to get off my keister and get it done.
Get her done.
Here's the next 500.
That's great.
Here's to the next 500, and thank you for all you do." Keith.
Now, is that sport pilot's license an Australian license where you
No.
go...
Sorry.
Where you go, "G'day, sport, have you got a license?" Or not?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
I take
Yes.
back my
No.
no from before. Yes.
Could be, maybe.
I suppose.
I don't. It's just that I don't genuinely know what a sport pilot's license is. Is that? Well, I mean, if you're a good sport here in the UK, I mean, people could make jokes and you would grin and laugh because you're a good sport. So is that the kind of pilot you're talking about?
Very similar.
No.
Oh.
I don't know what the requirements are, but there
I'm
are fewer
looking them up right
requirements
now
than
'cause
a private
I forget
license.
all of them. So I just want to get the requirements correct because I won't remember
Sure.
all of them off the top of my
Are there special
head.
airplanes you have to fly?
Yes, so this is for flying specifically light sport aircraft. So the definition of that per the FAA is has a maximum takeoff weight of not more than 1,320 pounds for aircraft not intended for water
I weigh
operation.
that much.
No, you'd say.
Sorry, carry on.
Or not more than 1,430 pounds if the aircraft is intended for operation on water. Maximum airspeed in level flight of with maximum continuous power of not more than 120 knots. Maximum never exceed speed of not more than that's for glider. No, skip that one. Maximum stalling speed without the use of lift enhancing devices of not more than 45 knots. Maximum seating capacity of no more than 2 persons, including the pilot. Single reciprocating engine, if powered. Fixed or adjustable or ground adjustable propeller. A couple of other things in here which aren't. So non-pressurized cabin, fixed landing gear.
Instrument flying?
I don't think that instrument ratings are possible with. Someone's going to correct me on this if I'm wrong. But let me go through the requirements here. That's not what I wanted. I'm sorry. Pilot endorsements. All right. So the applicant must. Okay. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff here. I didn't have this pulled up and ready because I was expecting.
That's what she said.
Didn't.
Yes.
Didn't do your homework.
I didn't do my homework.
To be fair, I didn't give her any.
No, I was looking up the training requirements because it's fewer hours. Someone probably already has this, and no, they don't.
Well, the chat room isn't helping much.
No, they're not helping at
No,
all.
they are not.
I'd have to actually go pull out a book here. I was hoping I could just. All right. Okay,
Well,
earn
it's
a
just
sport
a-
pilot. Here's the basics. Okay, minimum of 20 hours of flight instruction time is required, with 15 hours being with an FAA authorized instructors. 5 hours of solo flight and 2 hours of cross country flight are the minimum requirements to get your sport pilot's license. So it typically can be done in quite a bit less time than a private pilot certificate, but then you have a lot more restrictions on the type of aircraft you can fly and how many passengers you can carry with you, and as we just kind of read through there.
Okay.
Very good.
No, I was just wondering
Does
if a sport aircraft was allowed to fly in cloud. That was really my question.
No.
I don't think so. You'd have to have an instrument rating anyway, but I don't know that if you.
You have to have an instrument rating, but you can't use it.
I would imagine that to get an instrument rating,
Okay.
wouldn't you first have to have a private certificate?
I'm pretty sure.
At least?
I just want to find
know.
the actual CFR on that
Yeah.
before I.
Come on, people in the live
Oh,
audience. Help
CFRs.
us.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, it's very complicated.
Yes. Laura Davis says, aren't the medical requirements less
They
stringent
are less
too?
stringent. You can do so you can do a third class medical, or you can do the basic med, or you can even before basic med, I believe you could just have a valid driver's license to get your medical for a sport pilot's license.
You know, I've got a paper driver's license.
Paper? No.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
so old. It's made out of paper.
Okay, here you go. A sport pilot may
You guys
not
are
act.
boring the heck out of me.
No, wait. I'm going to answer Nick's last question.
What?
Here. Sport pilot may, if you would stop laughing at me, may not act as pilot in command of an aircraft when the flight or surface visibility is less than 3 statute miles without visual reference to the surface. So, no.
So no.
So, what is
Not
no
in
to the
clouds.
answer to? Oh,
You
okay.
can't
fly
fly
in
in
clouds?
cloud. Okay, thanks.
All right. That
Good job.
Sorry,
was.
I haven't
Good
looked
job,
at the requirements
Stephanie.
for a sport pilot's certificate in a very long time.
Great
And if I
job
knew
there,
we were going to
Steph,
talk about this, I would have had
with
a
double
more
F.
succinct.
Jeff, you can edit that whole middle bit and just include that last sentence Steph said there.
Fine.
No, I'm leaving it all in. So everybody can share
Hello,
the pain.
poor listeners. Oh.
Sorry. I'm not going to apologize for that. They asked me to answer questions that I wasn't ready to answer.
I just heard you apologize.
I did apologize.
Anyway.
I'm taking it back.
Oh, it's a take back. Wow. Okay.
I don't think we've had one of those before on this show.
So just quickly, before we do this week's Plane Tale.
Could you
I'd
sum
like
up what you just said? Sorry.
No. We're going to move on to
Smaller
this piece
aircraft,
of
less
feedback.
time, no clouds. Done.
Landon.
Feel free to. Well, that wasn't very
Did you
nice.
take yourself out?
Yeah. Well, Liz better watch out. I'm just going to add her
Liz
randomly
did.
at times.
Liz took her out. We didn't do it.
Oh, it's
Wasn't me.
good. Excellent.
Okay.
I love it.
That was the control room. Landon sent this in. Some audio feedback. So let's take a quick listen. Here we go. Take it away, Landon Harvey.
Remarks.
Oh, wait.
Sea level pressure when.
Hang on. I got to read this. I got to set it up first. He says, tell me if you hear it. So listen closely, folks. Tell me if you hear this.
Remarks. AO2 sea level pressure when 50. Arrivals expect visual approach runway 18 right, 18 left. Simultaneous approaches in use. Notices to airmen. Taxiway Golf between Taxiway Bravo and Taxiway Golf 2 restricted to aircraft with wingspan less than 171 feet. Taxiway Hotel closed between Taxiway Bravo and Taxiway Golf 2. Advise on initial contact. You have information keyhole.
Bad, Austin Bergstrom Airport. Bad. Oh yeah, that's an American 737 in the background, by the way, taking off. All right, bye.
Actually, that was good. We liked hearing that airplane flying by there for takeoff. So, either of my co-hosts care to tell me what Landon is trying to get us to hear?
Well, Steph
I could
can't 'cause
only
she's muted.
hear an airplane in the background.
I heard a little kind of a meh in the background twice, but I've no idea what someone was saying.
No. The computer voice said, notices to airmen.
Oh, naughty. Then they're supposed to say something different.
No,
aren't
he
they?
said, didn't they get the memo?
Yes, good point.
I guess this was
Well,
recorded after it changed, because that just very recently.
Notices to air missions. It
Yes,
should have been.
in fact, today, going into Jackson, I believe, listening to the ATIS over the frequency, the computer voice, or maybe it was going into Dallas yesterday. Regardless, it said notices to air missions.
Wow.
So
It's
a lot of
happened.
places are up to speed on it, but apparently not in Austin, at least when Landon recorded this the other day. So thanks, Landon.
Well
Do
done.
appreciate that.
Good spot.
And Speaking of a good spot, this is a good spot to play our Plain Tale for this week.
Mm-hmm.
It's entitled and I love these, RAF Form 414, Volume 13. Take it away, old pilot.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales. RAF Form 414, Volume 13. I'm about halfway through my 4-year sentence at RAF Valley, instructing those RAF pilots destined for the fast jet world. The first couple of years had been far from without incident, and I should probably mention that I nearly lost my greatest friend to an accident, but someone was watching over him that day and he survived. I was up in the Welsh mountains taking a new course through combat survival training and being beaten up every day by hawks endeavouring to take the tops off the trees home as souvenirs. Our training location was well known, and just about everyone in the low-flying area would come over at some point to say hello to the new students. Razor Gillett had just about blown us away with his slipstream when the radio crackled into life with the news that I should get down to the hospital in Bangor. Seeing my old friend just out of theatre with long plaster casts up to his hips and big steel pins sticking out of them at random like a drunk magician's swords stuck through a box was a bit of a shock. He stank of anaesthetic and ditch water, his front teeth broken and his face a mass of cuts from the ejection, but he was alive. It's very much his story to tell, so I'll leave it there, but I was never more grateful to see his crooked grin as he came around. By now I'd been back to Standard Squadron for an upgrade in instructor category from B1 to A2. This involved a tedious amount of study from a large pile of approved manuals and then a few weeks flying with the standards instructors to brush up on the nuances of instructional technique. A2s tended to be given the more advanced trips and students who needed a little extra help getting through the course, so getting a handle on the finer points of explaining how to hurtle through the air at a great rate of knots effectively was important. After a suitable amount of preparation, I was off to the hallowed halls of Central Flying School at RAF Leeming to get a laying on of hands by one of the godlike immortals that reside there on the thrones of gold in the examination wing. The laying on was more like a good slapping, but after using all 4 approved colours on the whiteboard, flying a check ride, and being probed in unspeakable places during the debrief, I was deemed suitable to join the ranks of A-grade instructors. I might note that the pinnacle of the instructor's tree was the grade A1, which could only be achieved after crawling through a desert for many years, climbing enormous mountains to meditate, and then prostrating yourself in front of a pilot with mythical abilities of self-levitation. Indeed, at the time it was considered so monumentally hard that there wasn't a single A1 Hawk instructor in existence. Months turned into years, and by the end of 1983 we were saying goodbye to one of our flight commanders, Glenn, who'd been loaned to us from the United States Air Force. He was a fine instructor, a great boss, and a passable darts player, an essential quality for the many days when the weather on the island of Anglesey was producing horizontal rain. I bet nobody knows the METAR code for that. The weather could be so notoriously bad that the station news magazine was titled Force 8. Having made sure that our students were suitably engaged in studying, we would retire to the instructor's crew room, drink coffee, and play darts. Glenn would often win purely by employing the stomach-churning habit known only to Americans of a certain ilk, by stuffing his cheeks with red man chewing tobacco and then spitting the vile brown effluent noisily into a Coke can. Glenn was going home after his tour of duty. He had made many good friends and was well loved, such that when tragedy struck his young family and he was offered an immediate return, he declined, wishing, he said, to remain and mourn amongst the many friends, comrades, and companions that he'd made at Valley. When he did leave, we gave him a great send-off, and at the conclusion of his last formal dinner, we unfurled a vast flag of the United States that we had hidden in the lofty ceiling over his head. In the rolls of material we had stuffed piles of confetti, so he was suitably covered in our love. In the bar afterwards, sipping on pints of beer, Glenn handed me a bar chit, normally used to write our drinks orders on. When I unfolded it, I read that I had been nominated as his successor, and he was handing over the reins. In reality, all it really meant was my own office, in which to write the copious reports needed on each and every student and instructor. It also meant trying to keep the courses ticking along so that our newly minted pilots could graduate on time. Hiccups in training progress were considered an anathema to our lords and masters. I also had the difficult task of interviewing our charges when things weren't going well, trying to nurse them through the tough times and, sadly, giving them the bad news if, despite everyone's best efforts, things just didn't work out. I had my fair share of those talks, but perhaps surprisingly, there were few tantrums or arguments. Most knew that they'd reached the extent of their ability and fully accepted it. Some didn't realize their own limitations, which was often the point, and made it difficult for them to accept. But if they couldn't reach the standard required here, how would they manage doing the same thing in a large battle formation carrying weapons whilst being attacked by other aircraft? To make it worse, there were few other opportunities for them within the service, so it often meant the end of their career in the Air Force. When the realization hit home, there were emotions felt on both sides of the desk. Very sad. At other times, a student's visit to the flight commander's office was cause for nervousness. I dealt with reports of over-exuberance in the mess, etc., very promptly, knowing that the punishment I gave my boys would be mild in comparison with that dealt out by others. If I got there first, it was hard for grumbling senior officers to punish a student a second time for the same offence. So I implored them to tell me first and give me a chance to fend off complaints with the big umbrella I kept solely for that job. At other times it might be some guidance to mould the young men who would one day be joining a frontline squadron. A tall, beefy, curly-haired student who was a good pilot, indeed a very good pilot, often let his mouth run away with him. He was never one to hide his light under a bushel. Whilst his friends put up with his self-satisfaction, it rubbed many others up the wrong way. An invitation for a cosy chat in my office, where he wasn't invited to sit down, resulted in me setting him straight. The advice I passed on wasn't original. I had heard it before. It ended with these sage words: keep your mouth shut and let your flying talk for you. Many years later, a British Airways pilot strode purposefully towards me in a bar in Narita. I immediately recognized the big stature and curly hair, and my heart sank. Was this payback time? Not at all, apparently. It seems that I had done some good, and we enjoyed quite a few beers together. As the years progressed, I took a pilot navigation instructor's course, so now I could help those who, like me a few years before, had been having difficulty mastering the art of navigation. This was followed by a master degree in instrument rating, the first time I had reached the dizzy heights needed to not just pass a rating, but excel at it. And before long I had yet more hands laid on to become an instrument rating examiner. This certainly didn't guarantee a pass when I had to re-qualify for my personal instrument rating. Next year, my old friend John sat in the back while I performed the usual raft of instrument flying exercises in the front. An instrument departure, a Chinese weave of speed, heading and height changes which culminated in a series of recoveries from unusual positions, all done on instruments. Then a practice diversion to fly an approach at a different airfield. I think we popped over to RAF Aldergrove in Northern Ireland, elevation 190 feet, where I missed the call to reset my altimeter from QNH to QFE and flew an ILS down to a 200-foot decision height on the wrong setting. Such events are often a reminder that we're all human, and it doesn't matter how many qualifications and accolades you receive, mistakes can and do happen. When I looked up from the gauges and peered from beneath the hood attached to my flying helmet, instead of seeing a smallish runway from 200 feet, I saw a vast one 10 feet away. Needless to say, that was a fail, and I had to do a retest, but John was kind enough to remark that he was impressed I had managed to keep the ILS needle centered right down to the runway. However, it's often the small things in life that will kill you. Christmas came and went, and I was at home throughout. The training system shuts down for such periods, and I entered the new year with just over one more year to go before I could escape back to the front line. I was flying less with students now and more with my fellow instructors, doing skills assessments and the like, and more often than not, when I got to fly with a student, it was for a check ride or test. These were regular events through a course and had to be passed before moving on to the next phase. For me, they were less enjoyable than regular instruction. Blogs in the front was usually on edge, knowing this was an important assessment, so most of my time was spent putting them at ease so they could perform at their best. I never really got my hands on the controls much, unless something had gone badly wrong. Then came a surprise, when Chris, my boss, was put in charge of Standard Squadron, and asked if I wanted to come upstairs to join him. This would mean flying almost exclusively with instructors, training and coaching them when they came in for their regular check rides or upgrades. It meant much less fun, as, let's be realistic, nobody likes being checked. But I knew my boss and enjoyed working under him, so was happy to take this change of role. The job was harder, as standards instructors couldn't afford to let things slip, or they'd lose what little credibility they had. A lot of our time was spent in classes, covering all the subjects that instructors had to keep up to speed on: metrology, aerodynamics, aeromed, theory of flight, regulations, and the myriad of other books, documents, maps, instrument plates, and such. Before too long, some of the incumbents had left, and I was asked to step up as the flight commander standards. In standards, we more or less had free rein on what we could do, and it started being fun to fly with grown-up pilots who knew their stuff. We frequently took our Hawks up to remote spots where, in addition to doing a couple of training sorties, we could combine a night stop or just pick up some fresh fish and Dublin Bay prawns from places like the remote RAF Machrihanish Air Base on the west coast of Scotland. Life was good, and I only had a few months to go before I would, hopefully, be posted back to somewhere more exciting when the boss dropped a small bombshell on my quiet existence. I have mentioned the hallowed instructor's A1 qualification, and it appeared that the higher-ups had finally noticed the distinct lack of such godlike creatures in the hawk world. The word had come down from on high that we should all be encouraged to reach up towards this mythical and ethereal world in the chance that we might achieve greatness. As the memo mentioned, becoming an A1 instructor wasn't impossible. One merely had to be exceptional. So when Phil, a devilishly handsome ex-Red Arrows instructor from the CFS Hawk outfit, announced that he was going to try, my boss mentioned in passing that he would like me to coach him through the preparation. So began the unnerving task of working one-to-one with Phil to cover all the ground needed before his grilling at the hands of the Central Flying School examination wing. A month or two later, off he went, to return 3 days later. The examination was no simple matter, with a gleaming new halo formating neatly over his golden locks. "Good job," said the boss. But then it occurred to him that I'd done at least as much work as Phil towards his A1. "Why don't you have a go yourself?" Which is how it happened that 3 years and 11 months after I left the Phantom Force, I hopped into Hawk T1XX231 and set off to Central Flying School to be put through the ringer. Sadly, my memory is selective, and I can only now remember the bad bits. At some point during a 4-hour oral examination, as I stood before a whiteboard giving explanation after explanation, armed only with 4 marker pens, I stumbled over an equation. I needed to show how the inertial and aerodynamic forces balance in a steady erect spin to the right for an aircraft with a B/A ratio greater than 1 and normally functioning controls. I think it was around the bit where the inertial moment in pitch equals force P applied to C precessed by R is pro spin at B. Therefore, IM equals bracket C minus A brackets PR. When I faltered and dried up, this was only one of 9 equations I needed to explain. I got a look of sympathy and we moved on. Later, in an auditorium in front of the entire CFS staff, I got through the lecture I had to give and then prepared for the final day, the flying tests. 2 hours and 10 minutes of airborne time later, and I was back on the ground. A debrief, a shake of the hand, and I climbed back into my aircraft for the 30-minute flight back to base, the latest A1 QFI in the Royal Air Force, and entitled to the post-nominal CFS star. Apparently, my spinning fluff had been forgiven. I was also to become the laziest A1 in the existence of the RAF, as my flight home was the very last time I would ever fly as a Hawk instructor. As luck would have it, my time was up and I was done with Valley. The next time I would get airborne would be back in the Phantom full time. But that, as they say, is another story.
Hey, Nick, in my book, you've always been A1.
Thank you very much. In the UK, it's just a road heading up to Scotland.
I was going to say, it's not as good as 1A, but we'll let PTUK discuss that.
Exactly right.
Oh.
Yes, quite right too. But that was an interesting 4 years, particularly since very few of us had ever volunteered to become flying instructors. We were all just told to go and do the job. And I look back at it now as a period that settled my spirit down and gave me an awful lot of grounding in the theories of what we did in the air. So actually, I was very grateful I got that chance.
Yeah, that
and
last
we're
little
grateful to
stuff
hear all about it.
Yes, we are. I was getting my head was starting to hurt when I was looking at that page in your.
Yeah, I was reviewing
notebook.
it actually and trying to remember how we used to chalk and talk it all the time. And it was so easy just to a little bit of an error there, and you'd forget how an equation went. You come out with the wrong result and go.
I'm glad we didn't have to do that stuff, and when I was an instructor in pilot training.
Well, I think your system was probably a lot better.
Well, I don't know. A lot more people make it through, maybe.
Yeah, it's quite.
Anyway, that was another enjoyable one. I really do enjoy the logbook, the RAF Form 14.
They are one of my favorites.
Whatever.
Yes. The other stories are good too, but I like the personal ones. I like learning more about Captain Nick.
Well, I'm back in the Phantom for a while next time. Yeah. And then off to another instructor's course. Oh, God.
I'm certain you were very disappointed. I'm sure you'll reflect upon leaving Valley for the vessel.
Yes. I must admit, I actually got the letter from the Commandant of Central Flying School congratulating me on passing. Was forwarded up to me at Lucas. I was already back on the Phantom. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bad timing.
There you go. Yeah, love it.
Okay. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Let's continue with some more feedback. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Let's do this. From Lars. And he has something to say, and he recorded it. Let's hear it.
Hi guys, it's from Norway again. I thought I'd give some quick feedback on your news section from episode 501, especially the two articles regarding the Russian plane with the icing problem, and secondly the go-around case up in Aberdeen, Scotland. First, the de-ice thingy you mentioned, or at least you discussed, how one would potentially discover residual ice after performing the anti-icing procedure. Before I became a professional pilot, I used to work as a ground handler for a regional airline in Norway. One of my duties was in fact to perform de-icing, and I'm not saying this is the way with every airline or procedure everywhere, but at least the way this particular airline chose to divide the responsibility was to have the ground crew perform what's known as a post anti-ice check, where I believe Rick was touching the subject, but it's very formalized over here. So after every de-icing and anti-icing, me as a de-icer would be required to do a visual check of the airplane as a whole to make sure that no part of the airplane is contaminated by snow or ice, as well as do a hands-on check on the critical surfaces such as the stabilizer and wings. The hands-on check can be excluded if the de-ice procedure is performed with the engines running, but as we used an open basket solution, all of the procedures were performed with at least one engine turned off. But we strictly adhere to what's known as the zero contamination principle, which basically means that regardless of what the pilots order in terms of de-icing, we will never release an airplane with contamination on the fuselage, even though the pilots only ordered a wing and stabilizer de-icing. So that's at least how it's done over in the top European part of the world. Secondly, the other news article about the go-around in Aberdeen with the 737, or the Boeing challenges with the automation not being possible to disengage once you have localizer and glide slope locked. I thought your discussion was pretty interesting, but I'd like to ask first. I'd like to ask you guys a question. You may pause the sound clip just to discuss it a bit. But one thing that I learned during my flight training in terms of go-around procedures, what is the primary goal of a go-around? My instructor at the time, he boiled it down really nicely for me, because the entire procedure, like from the initial approach fix down to the final approach fix and missed approach point, and all the way through the missed approach procedure, it's designed so that you can go around from the worst possible location, which would be the missed approach point, in a manner which is safe in terms of terrain separation and the general procedure design. But the aim of the go-around itself, the primary goal to achieve, is not to climb as quickly as possible, but to stop descending. And I found that to be quite a nice way of interpreting the go-around procedures, because to me at least, it really adds a whole new layer of calmness to the procedure, because it can be really stressful having to press toga and add thrust. Get your flaps up, make sure that you're tracking the correct both climb path and lateral path. But if you just do it bit by bit, like first you want to stop the descent and accept that the level segment could be flown, and then get your power, flaps, everything done, and then go into a climb, and then get your gear up. To me, at least, that increases the level of success or chance of executing a successful go-around dramatically, especially those intermediate go-arounds, because every time you practice a go-around in the simulator, it's done at minimums. So you will in fact need that increased powers just so you can climb away, and everything is kind of happening all at once. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents. Congratulations on passing the 500. Looking forward to the 600 show. I'll do my very best to attend that show, and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all. Best of luck from Norway. See ya.
Thanks, Lars, from Norway. He said he had a few thoughts on a couple of news articles from 501, and he discussed those and asked the questions very clearly. And yeah, I guess I was supposed to pause at that point in the feedback, but I thought, I'm just going to let the whole thing run out, and we can answer his question about, well, what is the purpose of a go-around? And I think his flight instructor, had a very good point about the fact that, it's not necessarily, getting the nose pointed up into the air and, climbing like a bat out of hell to get away from the ground. I mean, that can be one of the purposes of it. If, as you mentioned, you execute the go-around procedure right at the worst or last possible moment, the missed approach point in your instrument approach. But just arresting the descent, stopping the descent is an interesting way to kind of think about.
Another way to think about it, he's talking about it in the context of flying an instrument approach here. Do a lot of go-arounds in perfectly clear visual condition days, and because of a lot of different reasons. It's usually for someone that is still in my way, either on the approach path or on the runway still, that I need to avoid. So the purpose is to avoid colliding with that thing or object and maintain good, safe separation from others, basically. So it's not always about, as you said, climbing away from the runway at the last possible moment.
Right.
A couple of points. There, in the United States, go-rounds are generally directed by air traffic. That's not true in many other places in the world. So for me, entering a go-round meant not just the physical action of making sure you got safe separation from the ground, accelerating the aircraft and cleaning up, but it also entered a new phase of navigation, because some go-rounds required extremely accurate flying. You were well below local terrain and had to adhere to a lot of height constraints and turns that needed to be flown accurately to prevent yourself from putting yourself in a dangerous position. So to me, it was a whole phase of flying. And certainly just leveling off might, in most circumstances, is a great idea, but you try doing that at LA, where the go-around altitude is 2,003 feet. They send you around from 2,500 feet. You've got to go down to 2,000 feet to level off, so you go under the visual flight corridor that's over the end of the runway that you're about to otherwise blow through. So you've really got to be aware of your surroundings and the situation you're in. So I agree in most of everything you said, Lars, but there's of course always the exception where you really have to be on top of what's about to happen. And quite often at the end of a really long trip, the weather looks great, everything looks absolutely tickety-boo, you can never see a good reason for going around. That's when often it happens. And because you're not mentally prepared for it, because you're kind of going, oh, God, we'll be on the ground. You're already on the bus having a beer on the way to the hotel. That's the moment that it happens and you get caught out and everything goes to worms because you really weren't thinking about what the situation that could occur just any moment now. You've been lulled into that full sense of security. So for me, it's just staying on top of the airplane, staying ahead of the airplane, being on the ball whenever you can, and trying to be a good captain. That's really what it comes down to.
And constantly be thinking about, okay, what am I going to do if this happens at this point? But complacency is a hard thing to shake sometimes, right? You always come in and land, right? Always. Well,
oh, absolutely.
Not always. It just feels like.
Well, I think it's as you put it, it's just being aware of what the situation is calling for, right? So just try and stay present, stay in the moment. Think about what you can think about the what ifs. I don't think you have to be thinking about the what ifs all the time. That's probably not constructive either, but those things should go through your head sometimes, and you should be aware of what the conditions you're in require.
Yeah, a good balance. I think any pilot needs good balance in everything that they do. Whether it's be drinking, climbing stairs, going over that tightrope. Good balance, very important.
Yes, good balance.
I Haul Boxes says that the primary goals of a go-around to go crash somewhere else with less fuel.
Yeah, I love that. I saw that. I yelled a quiet chuckle.
Yeah,
very good.
I laughed.
Very good indeed.
Oh, Neil thinks that maybe it's for more flight hours for the pilot. That's what he thinks.
Well, possibly. Yeah. But in reality, I worked it out. I did about one every 5 years. So, it's not like you get heaps of practice out of the simulator. It's pretty rare. Pretty rare.
But I did think it was quite interesting a few years back at my outfit that they started kind of considering and thinking about and putting us through the situations where you're not at the decision height or the missed approach point in a non-precision approach. You're, as you mentioned, you're above the missed approach altitude, or you're way out on the approach, and they tell you to call off the approach and go around and think about, okay, is it really necessary that we go to toga power and put the nose up, 15, 20 degrees and go screaming through the air and scaring the out of the passengers in the back? Yeah, maybe not. Let's think about the situation that we're in at the moment. But as you say, the moments that you're really thinking about and maybe even rebriefing go-around procedures is when you're in a situation with like a low visibility approach or whatever, and you're thinking there's a really possibility here that we're not going to be able to see the runway and land, and so you're kind of ready for it. So, and that's not the situation that catches you off guard. It's the situation,
Correct.
as you mentioned, where you're already halfway to the hotel in the van or thinking about that beer or whatever. What? He's telling me to do what? Go around? I can't land? What? And then all hell breaks loose in the cockpit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good points. Okay, I'm getting. Control room is speaking with me right now. I think that's a great idea, Liz. But before we do that, let's not overlook the first part of Laura's audio feedback. He talked about the de-icing, specifically about the Russian icing / de-icing. I guess the Russian icing, it was supposed to be completely de-icing, but they didn't quite do the full trick with the ice on the fuselage. And I thought that was a really interesting experience-related, sharing with us regarding de-icing and the fact that even if the pilots asked for just the wings and the tail, because I do that a lot, and a lot of times it's the only thing that's on the fuselage is what we call hoarfrost, or very light coating of frost on the upper fuselage, and we have some parameters that we're required to follow regarding that. But a lot of times it's just not anything that's going to, like, a piece of it's not going to break off and be ingested into an engine. It's just frost. It's not going to do anything. But I thought it was interesting what he said there, that even if the pilots had asked just for the wings and the tail, that they make sure that, at least in his experience in that area of the world, that they make sure that the entire airplane is completely free of winter contaminants.
Yeah, I thought that was good too, because it makes the point that he has a license as well to ensure that the aircraft is safe to fly, as well as the captain. And to me, it's the highest degree of safety that is the trump card. And if his I've got to clean the whole airplane is safer than what the captain has requested, he's going to clean the whole airplane, which I think is a great attitude.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Thanks again, Lars, from Norway. One of these days, I'd like to get up to your neck of the woods and check it out.
It's a beautiful country. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't forget to take plenty of money.
All right.
Not a cheap part of the world.
Well, the beer, everything alcoholic is very expensive. Oh.
Well, I'll just let Lars.
What if I just bring my own beer?
Yeah, it might work.
There we go. Problem solved.
Problem
solved. There's a solution for everything, isn't there, Steph?
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, Ray Williams, my neighbor to the north in Alpharetta, actually to the south now in Alpharetta, sent in some feedback. He says, here's some audio feedback from the last few shows. Sorry, the mic seems to have picked up the fan noise from the desktop PC. Ah, well, feel the width. All the best for... Okay, I'm just going to go right past that. All the best for 2022. Regards, Ray Williams, Alpharetta, Georgia. So let's listen to Ray's audio feedback.
Hi, Captain Jeff, and all the rest of the APG crew. Captain Nick, Captain Rick, Dr. Steph, and of course, Liz Piper. Congrats on reaching your 500th episode, Jeff. It is a real tribute to the dedication and the planning that you've put in over all the years that this has gone so far. It's a huge tribute to the work that you and the rest of the team put into the production. And the 500th episode was great. Kudos to the myriad folk who helped and contributed to that marvelous show. I've got a few things to chat about today. In 501, you folk were talking about go-rounds. Rick mentioned the thump of the extra power and the 2,000 feet a minute climb when you hit the toga button. So a couple of months ago, we had to go to Europe. Took the hometown airline to Amsterdam and then a KLM 737 down to Zurich. As we turned left onto final for 1-4 at Zurich, I could see the approach lights in the distance. It was a clear day. We kind of looked kind of high, but then generally they always look high to me, to my inexperienced eyes. So it was a clear day, as I said, and I was watching the countryside go past on the left, looking for the spotters at Spotters Hill. And then I noticed a change in the attitude, a little bit of nose up and gentle pressure on my back. And I said to my wife, we're going around. And I said, this is going to be fun. Because my previous experience of a go-around had been at Dallas-Fort Worth once in an MD-88. I was right up on the front of economy, on row 10, whatever it is. The first row of the economy seating, way forward of the wings. And it was a gusty day, and the 88 was lurching around, and they couldn't get onto the approach, and we started the go-around. Well, somebody said that the MD nickname of Mad Dog came from what the 88s do when you hit the toga button. As I said, I was so far in front of the wing, the nose going up, and then coupled with a huge push as the power increased, and we were just going straight up. I reckon it was going to be a couple of minutes, and I'd be looking downwards at angels. Anyway, nothing like that happened on the KL 737. Gentle acceleration, slight climb, and the flight attendant comes on and says, we're aborting. No excitement. Back on the downwind, the captain comes on and says we were too high on the approach. And so then when we landed and we were coming off the runway past the windsock, and I noticed that we'd had a fair tailwind component on the landing. So I thought maybe the tailwind had kind of messed up with their approach plan and got them too high too late. So the captain didn't come out to say cheers to us when we left. And I was going to ask him if that was the case. But my son says, maybe the King of Holland was flying the plane, because he would sometimes fly the KL 737s. And sure enough, our go-around had just the regal calmness of a king. But I seem to remember that the king stopped flying the KLM planes around about 5-6 years back. I think he just reached that age. So, another thing in 501, you all were talking about the DC-3 wheels-up landing in Anchorage. And Nick happened to mention that the DC-3 wheels protruded, and Rick thought there was a mechanism for aligning the prop to minimize prop damage in the case of a belly landing. Well, Nick is correct, but this crash was not a DC-3. You got it right when you started to introduce the item, and you said it's a DC-3S. That's a Super DAC. Amongst other changes, the longer fuselage and the really cool DC-7-like fin and rudder, different wings. The Super has the wheels enclosed within wheel well doors, so it kind of looks maybe cool, but anyway, so they weren't protruding. Now, the protruding wheels of the original DC-3 were pretty neat. In Len Morgan's book, The Douglas DC-3, there is a copy of the actual flight handbook issued to pilots during World War II. And in this handbook appears the following. When you make a belly landing, either on an airfield or on rough terrain, remember this point. Your landing gear extends approximately a foot when retracted. Not only does it take the greater part of the shock of a belly landing, but you can use the wheels and brakes as you would if the gear were extended. Because of this fact, you never actually make a belly landing. So the brakes and everything work when in a belly landing. But as I say, in this case, it was Super DAC, and they were enclosed. As to Rick's remark about lining the props, I don't think the 1 foot clearance would enable the prop blades. I think they're, 5.5, 6 feet long, to avoid hitting the ground, even like when the one blade is straight up and the other two are at angles down. I think, they're going to be about 4.5 feet on the vertical. So, and I can't find any mention about prop positioning to minimize damage in any of the DC-3 docs I have. I've got pilot's notes and things like that and books on it, and I don't see anything. And then talking about the DAC is a good segue into my one gentle gripe. I thought APG was about aeroplanes. Well, in episode 499, we get to this topic of a 340 flight to Antarctica. 5 hours from Cape Town. Wow. But I bet it took over an hour for the 340 to get to a height where the water from a spouting whale wouldn't drench the cockpit windows. Anyway, back to the video. We see it land and get photographed. Big, white, 19-year-old aeroplane on a totally white airport. Okay, seen that. And I wait, and I wait, and wait for what is really interesting in the video. In the background of this plane is a DAC, and nobody says anything about it. So it's probably one of the Ken Borek Air BT-67 Basler turbo-converted DACs. I think they use them to fly rich folk to the South Pole. Some 19-year-old jet just doesn't quite stack up to a 77-year-old veteran. And you all seemed surprised that the A340 landed on runway 175. Well, the 10-degree grouping of runway numbers, I believe, is to handle the vagaries of magnetic variation. In the extreme south and in the extreme north, the runways are designated by true bearings, not magnetic, and hence, I guess they can be more finely defined. So 175 is fine for a true course runway. Anyway, the South Pole sightseeing flights are ideal for the DC-3s. They head down and then enter a right-hand circuit of the South Pole, continuous eastbound flight, and on each circuit they cross the international dateline and the aircraft becomes a day younger. Anyway, enough chat. Compliments of the season to the APG crew and all the APGers throughout the world. A special shout out to those in the southern hemisphere enjoying the holidays with long warm days outdoors and by the pool. I'm being nostalgic. Cheers, folk. Take care, stay safe, get vaccinated.
Well, that's Ray Williams, our originally from South Africa. I don't know if he still has that citizenship or not. Maybe dual citizenship. But, I noticed in that video, by the way, of the 340 landing in Antarctica, I noticed that DC-3 or whatever it was, conversion in the background, but I just didn't mention it. I didn't know I was going to disappoint you, Ray, for not mentioning it.
You didn't know all the legions of DC-3 or
no
fanatics out there were just going to be,
on his
dipping
arse.
at your heels about it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure the very first time a DC-3 landed in Antarctica, they had, who would have been, Pathé News in those days would have made a big thing of it. And I think that's the only reason the 340 made a big thing. It was the first time a 340 had been in there. I can't remember which version it was. Was it a 300 or a 600?
300.
It was a 300. Okay, well, I'll reserve comment on the rate of climb remark.
You'll have to agree with him on that.
I have no recollection of the runway heading. I must have missed that part of the conversation.
Yeah,
I vaguely remember that.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm going to wave the bullshit flag there because you don't need to be able to measure your runway heading quite so accurately. Although I suspect if it was an ice runway, it might not have been quite so easy to find the edges. So making sure that you had the exact runway heading bugged so that as you touch down, you could use your compass as an extra reference to make sure you weren't going to drift off into deep snow. Might have been a reason, I don't know.
Even up here in, non-Arctic, Antarctic areas, we still put in the exact, even though we're landing on runway 34, if the heading is 337, that's what we have in our heading select.
Yeah, you have that access to that information.
Yeah. What is that, the QDM? The QDM, isn't that the Q code for the runway? I might be wrong, but it's been a while now.
I do not have any idea what you're talking about.
I've never heard that before.
You never set up the QDM? Okay, I'm going to now look up QDM.
Well, I'm sure it's a
I'll
thing.
be back.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye. Anyway, I think that that was interesting about the wheels protruding the foot, and the fact that it's really never a true belly landing, right? Because the wheels are going to touch first, and you can actually use braking with them. Wow, never heard of that.
I have it.
Okay. Yes.
The QDM is the magnetic heading or a magnetic bearing. So if you want the exact magnetic heading of a runway, it's the QDM.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd say the QDM of the runway is...
and then the answer would be...
And the person you're flying with would look at you like you have three eyeballs.
because they're all English.
Oh,
no, they're not actually. Most of them are like French, and they go, "Huh? QDM? Who cares?"
Okay. Well, I thought we were going to manage to get through an entire show without
insulting the French.
I'm offended. If you're offended,
remember
Agincourt. I'm offended at airlinepilotguy.com.
There you go.
We won't read
happy
it,
to send
but
that to
we'll be
our
happy to
HR
collect your...
department, who will
Yes.
Yeah.
Just
We'll laugh at
directly
it.
to the trash.
You say
just straight into the shredder. Yeah.
Let me do one more, Liz. I think number 14 would be fun to do, kind of a little light way to kind of... And oh, by the way, Ray, thanks for that great audio. Very, very interesting information, and look forward to hearing more from you in the future. So here we go. Last one here on show 503 is from Texas Charlie. He said, "This one's just for you, Captain Jeff." He said,
All right,
knowing
I'll
your
leave.
deep... Well, wait, he means everybody, I think.
Oh, okay.
Knowing your deep love for the media and their professional level of knowledge and care regarding the reporting of aviation-related stories. This one's for you. And here's a graphic that he sent along with his feedback, and we're displaying it on the video right now. And it says, type of aircraft found in 1,000 news articles chosen at random over the last 72 hours. And it's a pie graph. And so the biggest piece of the pie is represents the, from what I can tell, maybe it's a tie with, there are a couple of them are pretty big pieces, are the Boeing 737 MAX 800, and the second or the closest one, just like it, or represents about the same, Boeing 747 MAX 8. I don't think there is a...
There's a dash 8.
Yeah, so we're looking back here. Now let's start off with the top category. Boeing 737 RJ-175s.
I flew on one of those recently, I think. Yep.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh.
That exact model. Mm-hmm.
Really?
It's kind of rare,
Okay.
as you can tell by the graph. It doesn't appear in many news articles.
No. How about this one? The Boeing 787 RG Megajet. Okay.
I'm actually personally a fan of the Böing McDougbus 737.
That is the best. The Böing McDougbus 737.
Definitely my favorite.
Of course, you know,
And
the
this-
Max, the Max Series 8 is in the news a lot, of course. But I haven't heard much about the Airbus model, the Airbus Max Series 8.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I like the Cessna one. Cessna 737 Cherokee.
It's a weird hybrid.
That's a
kind of
real
odd looking.
worry.
Yeah.
That one.
I think I've seen a few of those that Cessna 737 Cherokees out there, actually. The Boeing Bus Miami NC-17. I'm not sure I understand that much.
I think Miami Rick needs to explain that one to us.
Yeah. The Boeing Bus Miami Rick, maybe. That would be a good one. The Boeing 343 XP. I don't know.
I like the 787 Max 8 RG as opposed to the
or the-
non-retractable gear 787.
How about the Boeing 737 Maximus?
Maximus. In all caps for added emphasis, I suppose.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, Charles Prince, otherwise known as Texas Charlie, says, "Keep smiling. It messes with their heads." Texas Charlie.
Excellent. Good job.
Wonder if you're just happy or you're just crazy or both. All right.
Böing
Oh,
McDougbus.
wait, that
all right. That's amazing.
brings us to the end of episode 503, the last live recording in the year 2021. And so I guess we should now tell you that we have a website. It's called airlinepilotguy.com. Even says so right there in the video. Thank you for putting that up there, Liz. And the site is full of all kinds of... Captain Nick's even pointing to it. There you go. I mean, how can you miss it now? You can learn more about the crew and the community. Liz is concerned you might be experiencing a stroke.
A stroke. Yes, I was having a little stroke. Yes.
Okay.
With my other hand.
All right. Let me keep going here. The crew, the community, we have a calendar there. We have information about the plane tail. Why you'd want to know more, I don't know, but
Neither do I. I put a couple out today. Thank you for
excellent.
Preparing those.
Oh, sure, yeah. I'm just sorry it took so long for me to finally get it to the point where you could put your finishing touches on them, so to speak. And let's see, we have the APG library if you're into reading these things called books. Information about the merchandise. Yeah, you can get your APG merch and so much more. Just head over to airlinepilotguide.com. And we're also on social media. And the lovely doctor is going to tell us more about that.
If you are on social media like we are, you can head over to Twitter on your mobile device or your computer, whatever you prefer. We are at APG Crew, and our individual Twitter handles are pinned to the top of that page, should you wish to seek those out. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. And gosh, I haven't done it in a long time, but perhaps I'll make a New Year's resolution to actually repost Captain Nick's wonderful artwork on our Instagram, where we are also APG.
Too late. I've stopped doing it now.
Oh, well, I'll figure out something different to do with our
Never mind.
Instagram then. And with that,
Only
I'll turn
joking.
you over to Hillel.
Hillel, let's see if he's here in Jackson. And okay, hang on, I think I hear so. Hey, Hillel, do you have time to do Slack?
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
That's okay. Come on over here and tell us all about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas, we suggest episode and plain tales topics, we plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo at airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Hey, thanks, Hillel.
Where's the soap?
In the soap dish.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
I'll order some more and send it to Jeff's place for you. I don't know why he's used it all already. It's weird.
I don't know. And you'd think a hotel room, would have plenty of soap, but sometimes you'd be wrong. All right. Well, with that, it's now time to thank our producer director in
Hey,
Toronto.
well done, Liz. Thank you. Good job with Plain
Thank you, Liz,
Tales.
for all the hard work. Appreciate that. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Looking forward to it. And with that, I thought I'd fixed that. Apparently not. Oh, hi, Liz.
There she is.
She's joined us. Where have you been all this time?
I don't know, just goofing around.
Yeah, all right. Well, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, Liz, and
Absolutely.
celebrating the end of this year and the new one coming
Here's
up.
to
And
2022. A good year, I hope.
yes, let's say that wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and a great and happy, prosperous, safe, rewarding, good year. God bless.
Cheers, y'all. Happy
Bye, everybody.
2022. And I'll just end with Böing McDougbus.
Bye, everybody.
Touche.
I don't know. Just wanted to say that one more time because it makes me
Oh, that
laugh
was good.
a
I'm
lot
glad you
every
did.
time.
I'm glad you did. Okay, let me turn off the
recorders,
the clean feed,
Yep.
and then go over here to.
I'm going to write that down in case I want some artwork ideas.
Uh-oh. Missing audio device. Input device does not appear to be attached to your Mac.
Well, your
session
audio
is
was
running,
fine,
but may
so-
not provide the desired results.
In other words, it's,
It didn't record anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. I think I got good audio from you all, so shouldn't need it. So, there you go. Is Böing McDougbus hard to illustrate? I would imagine that would be pretty easy for Nick to come up with.
Yeah, I
some
reckon I could probably
strange-looking control.
I could probably glue three
Frankenstein some
airplanes
three
together.
airplanes together. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. I think a Böing McDougbus, not dog bus. I don't think a dog
Yeah,
bus.
I think
is
it's Doug.
the same
Doug
thing.
Bus. Yeah.
Yes. And would I have to spell it the conventional way, or could I put the umlaut O?
Oh yeah, do it that way.
ING?
Well, you're the
You're the artiste in
creative
charge.
Artistic
artiste.
license. Go for it.
Yeah, artistic
Okay.
license. There you go.
Right, as in the original Mr. Boeing's name. Boeing.
Yes.
That
Correct.
was easy.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Wow.
Texas.
If
Thanks,
there's
Texas.
any other
Texas.
better suggestions,
No,
but
I can't think of one from this episode. I just
no.
Thank you, Texas Charlie.
Yeah, Texas Charlie, you came through for us again. Thank you. All right. I'm hungry and thirsty.
I need to go retrieve my dogs.
I want to go to bed.
Okay,
It's
good luck.
Nearly 1:30 in the morning.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, get to bed, man. What are you doing up this late?
No idea. I'm completely bemused.
Some lunatics suggested that he should join them for some conversation for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Probably true. We are
No, I was having a beer with some good friends, and I have no objection to staying up late.
Oh, well.
Oh, when did you do that? Before we started recording?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
I have a collection of them.
Well, it's always so nice to have our live audience with us every week, and so thank
Good,
you for
good
that.
team this week. I got some
It
good
really is.
comments.
Oh, there were some interesting conversations going on there too.
Yeah, there
some
were.
heavy stuff.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to talk about that.
No, we're not.
Nope.
No, we're not.
Nope.
And
We've
the
decided
fact
that
that-
that will be continued over beers in person at a later date.
Yes, that's probably
As
a better
it will
time
be.
to discuss that sort of thing. And I would be offended, Nick, because they were doing all of that deep conversation in the middle of your plane tale instead
know.
of listening.
Yeah, actually,
Very
it was a
insulting.
quiet relief to me actually that no one was listening.
I'm going back to listen. I just want you to know.
Anyway, good stuff. But
Fisticuffs,
at
yeah.
any time-
We're just going to have a big brawl about it. It'll be great.
Well, that's not what I
Arm
meant.
Hopefully.
wrestle.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I love you all. I really do. And you're all the reason for my divorce.
I don't.
So just wanted to put that on you.
Heard that.
I only love 50% of you.
Oh, I'm glad
well,
I'm in that
that's pretty good.
50%.
That's still a good number. Yeah. So,
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Always great to see you all. And as we said, it's going to be fun someday in the future where we all get together in what is it, IRL?
Do you promise?
And,
it's going to be fun someday? Because I've been doing this show for ages. It hasn't been fun at all.
Oh, shut up, Nick.
Time for Nick to go to bed.
Yes.
Time to go to bed, you grouch. All right.
Happy New Year, everybody.
That's it.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks for hanging with us. We do appreciate it.
Happy 2022. Yay.
Your head is in the perfect